The House will please be in order. Those persons not having privilege of the floor will please vacate the chamber. All members and guests in the galleries will please rise as we are led in prayer today by Pastor Steve Spurlock. Pastor Spurlock is the guest of our colleague, the gentleman in the 34th District, Delegate Dean.
I'd like to thank Mr. Dean for the opportunity to be here this morning. If you bow your heads with me, we'll pray. Dear Heavenly Father, maker of heaven and earth, we come before thy presence this day to honor with praise and glory and to ask for your divine care. We ask that in thy mercy and will thou would grant this body wisdom to realize powers from God, for the powers that be are ordained of God. Wisdom to proceed in fear and accountability to Almighty God and with transparency to the people of West Virginia, for unjust weights are an abomination. Wisdom to prosper the free state of West Virginia, to protect the God-given inalienable rights of a nation under God, especially those of the innocent and the vulnerable. Wisdom to produce competency and structure in our youth and less fortunate, ensuring stability and accountability at every level with precepts outlined in thy holy word, thereby preserving and perpetuating our patriotic Christian heritage passed to us from our forefathers. Wisdom to promulgate legislation only after weighing with the word of God and the constitutions of both this great nation and this great state. For the transgression of a land, many are the princes thereof, but by a man of understanding and knowledge, the state thereof shall be prolonged. We pray, Lord, for thy protection and well-being on all those in authority, giving honor to whom honor is due, and provide your providential hand shielding from danger those who by unction are in place for our protection, for they are the ministers of God. And I ask, O God, that thou wouldst give personal perspective to every soul within hearing this day, to be altogether such as I am, a Christian, trusting the finished work of Jesus Christ, his death, burial, and resurrection. For the same Lord over all is rich unto all that call upon him, for whosoever shall call upon the name of the Lord shall be saved. Dear Heavenly Father, we sure thank you for all that you've done for us. Thank you, Lord Jesus, for the death on the cross. In Jesus' name, amen.
Please remain standing as we are led into Pledge of Allegiance today by the gentleman, the 16th, Delegate Parsons.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Good morning, everyone. Please join me in honoring America in the Pledge of Allegiance to our flag. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Very enthusiastic Pledge of Allegiance this morning. Welcome. Reading of the Journal.
Journal of the House of Delegates, March 2nd, 2026.
Led in the 52nd, Delegate Howe.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I ask unanimous consent that the further reading of the journal be dispensed with and that it be approved as having been read.
Led in the 52nd, ask unanimous consent that further reading of the journal be dispensed with and that it be approved as having been read. Are there objections? No objections are heard. Further reading of the journal will be dispensed with. Introductions. Lady from the 15th, Delegate Moore.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I'm very proud to introduce a very enthusiastic crowd I have with me today. 5 brave teachers from Roane County: Kim Ashley, Emily Blosser, Savannah Harper, Megan Freeland, and Dixie Hall. And if they will stand, I have the entire Spencer Elementary School 4th grade class. Please make them feel welcome.
From the 12th, Delegate Chris.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And direct your attention to the North Gallery. I am pleased to announce the latest inductee to the West Virginia Healthcare Hall of Fame class of 2026. Dr. Catherine Calloway is a West Virginia physician rooted in rural Appalachia communities and proud of the continuation of a family legacy of service that began with her grandfather as a coal camp doctor in Cabin Creek. She serves as the Chief Medical Officer of the Hospice Care West Virginia and is a Regional Assistant Dean at the West Virginia School of Osteopath Medicine, and with a career dedicated to rural primary care, hospice and palliative medicine, medical education, and healthy policy advocacy. She graduated from Wake Forest University, Boston University School of Public Health, and the West Virginia School of Osteopathic Medicine. She has worked both internationally and here at home to strengthen primary care and population health systems. She's had the opportunity to meet the Dalai Lama and later hosted primary advisor in West Virginia, where a blessing was offered at our state capitol. An experience that reflects her commitment to bridging global perspective with Appalachian service. Dr. Calloway lives here in Charleston with her husband and 3 children and remains deeply committed to the compassionate care of West Virginia. Dr. Catherine Calloway.
Gentleman, the 82nd, Douglas McCormick.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have the pleasure of having a page from Morgantown in my district here today. Carson Bolyard, and would you please stand, Carson? Hey, and everybody, make him feel welcome. He is his favorite subject is math. He's in the band, plays basketball, and he turns 11 on Friday.
Gentleman, the 55th, Douglas Akers.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have 2 pages here today, and I think that their moms may be up in the gallery with them as well. We have Katie McQuarrie and Nora Foreman. If you're both in the room, you might be running errands right now. They go to Holtz Elementary School and Overbrook Elementary School. Their mothers are Sarah Stewart and Kate Foreman, who I think are here today. Let's give them a big round of applause. Thank you so much for coming in.
Gentleman, the 39th, Douglas Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As everyone knows, today is Concord Day at the Capitol. I direct your attention to the South Gallery, and please join me in welcoming President Bethany Megan, Provost Ed Huffstetler, Executive Director of Advancement Josh Klein, Jordan Stavik and the Concords, Chief of Government Relations Andrew Solgit, Concord University SGA, and all the faculty and staff and students represented today in the Rotunda. So get out there if you can. Please join me in giving all of Concord University a warm welcome. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Gentleman from the 77th, Douglas Stowler.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm honored today to rise and introduce just a small number of the guests that we have down here from the Morgantown Area Partnership today. They have been out all over this the city here visiting everybody. And so if they would please rise on behalf of all the delegation from Montague County, thank you very much for coming down to Charleston.
Gentleman from the 30th, Douglas Eldridge.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have pages from Lincoln County, the home of Chuck Yeager. I have pages here. Abigail Polly, if y'all please stand and when I call your name. Mackenzie Vance, Sarah O'Donohue, Wesley Parsons, Carson Cyrus, Clay Smith, Iris Gregorich, Keely Gregorich, Addison Payton, Lillian Good, Emma Black, Braxton Torres, and Abby Roy, and chaperoned by Miss Carrie Polly. If y'all will please stand and everybody make them feel welcome.
Gentleman from the 75th, Douglas Mallow.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In the South Gallery today, we have a test flight engineer who served in the U.S. Air Force on the B-21 Raider and has now moved back to West Virginia to work at the Civil Military Innovation Institute in Morgantown. He's here with his dad. Let's give him a warm Mountaineer welcome to Chris Warner, Jr.
Gentleman from the 50th, Douglas Pritt.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Good morning, everyone. So I have 2 pages with us today, and on behalf of the Fayette County delegation and the gentleman from the 55th, I'd like to introduce to you all today Miss Kinsey Allen and Miss Eden Skaggs, and they're escorted by Miss Jennifer Allen in the South Gallery. I have had them in class for 3 years now, and the last time I introduced a page who I'd had for 3 years, I sat down and the gentleman from the 4th year said, "Hey, you got to start passing these kids." And so then I realized, oh my gosh, it made it seem like they failed my class. So that's not the case. So I've just had them for 3 years. So I hope that you make them feel welcome this morning. Thank you very much.
Gentleman to 29, take it, Dylan.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. While she's not here with us in person today, I want to wish a happy 77th birthday to my dear mother who's at home watching this, and would the House please make her feel appreciated. Thank you.
Gentleman to 44, take it, Roop.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today I have 2 special guest pages, Mr. Atlas Barton and his sister Journey Barton, and they're accompanied by their mom Polly Barton in the South Gallery. Please make them feel welcome.
Gentleman to 54th, take it, Pushkin.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This morning we have joining us from the village of Barbersville, Jackson Waters. Jackson is an 8th grader at Barbersville Middle School, and he is accompanied today by his mother, Amanda Beach Burge, who is in the South Gallery, who also happens to be the chair of the Cabell County Democrats. Would everybody please make Jackson and Amanda feel welcome.
Gentleman to 46, take it, Campbell.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In our North Gallery, we have the president of the West Virginia School of Osteopathic Medicine, Dr. James Nimitz, and his wife, the First Lady of WVSOM, Nancy Nimitz. Will the House please make them welcome?
Are there further introductions? Standing committee reports.
Your Committee on Government Organization has had under consideration a committee substitute for Senate Bill 607 relating to federally approved project delivery methods for airport capital improvement projects, and committee substitute for Senate Bill 690 creating alternative DOH procurement procedure, and reports the same back with recommendation each do pass.
Report will be received.
Your Committee on Education has had under consideration House Bill 5669, prohibiting the homeschooling of children in certain circumstances, and reports committee substitute back, therefore, with recommendation that the committee substitute do pass, but first be referred to your Committee on Judiciary.
Report will be received. Gentleman the first.
Mr. Speaker, the 2 chairs have conferred unanimous consent that the second reference to the judiciary be dispensed with.
Are there objections to the second reference of House Bill 5669 to the Committee on the Judiciary being dispensed with? No objections are heard. Clerk will please place the bill upon the calendar. Further standing committee reports? If not, select committee reports, executive messages, Senate messages.
The Clerk of the Senate announces that the Senate has passed the following bills. Committee substitute for Senate Bill 459, ensuring meaningful contact between child and step siblings.
The message will be received and the bill will be referred to the Committee on the Judiciary.
Committee substitute for Senate Bill 486, relating to West Virginia Board of Barbers and Cosmetologists.
The message will be received and the bill will be referred to the Committee on Government Organization.
Committee substitute for Senate Bill 644, requiring Economic Development Authority to participate in federal tax credit scholarship program.
The message will be received and the bill will be referred to the Committee on Education.
Committee substitute for Senate Bill 689, creating West Virginia Homeschool Student Athletics Participation Act.
Message will be received and the bill will be referred to the Committee on Education.
Committee substitute for Senate Bill 741, expanding pilot program to implement involuntary commitment process.
The message will be received and the bill will be referred to the Committee on Finance.
Committee substitute for Senate Bill 852, increasing fees for execution of service of process by certified mail.
The message will be received and the bill will be referred to the Committee on Government Organization.
Committee substitute for Senate Bill 947, providing birth certificate copies to homeless individuals under 18.
The message will be received and the bill will be referred to the Committee on the Judiciary.
Senate Bill 952, transferring court security fund.
The message will be received and the bill will be referred to the Committee on Finance.
Committee substitute for Senate Bill 970, exempting volunteer fire departments from raffle regulations.
The message will be received and the bill will be referred to the Committee on Government Organization.
Committee substitute for Senate Bill 1011, allowing volunteer fire departments to submit and audit paperwork electronically.
The message will be received and the bill will be referred to the Committee on Government Organization.
Senate Bill 1024,
allowing rescission or reversal of school closure decisions through July 15th.
The message to be received and the bill will be referred to the Committee on Education.
Committee substitute for Senate Bill 1035 relating to judges' retirement system.
The message to be received and the bill will be referred to the Committee on Finance.
Senate Bill 1044 requiring Board of Education to promulgate rule that sets forth common graduation requirements.
The message to be received and the bill will be referred to the Committee on Education.
Committee substitute for Senate Bill 1061 authorizing reassignment of school personnel in certain instances.
The message to be received and the bill will be referred to the Committee on Education.
Senate Bill 1064 redefining long-term substitute as it relates to public school personnel.
The message to be received and the bill will be referred to the Committee on Education.
Committee substitute for Senate Bill 1077 requiring vocational education agriculture programs to be offered to all students.
The message to be received. For what purpose does the gentleman from the 29th August Dillon seek recognition?
Point of inquiry, Mr. Speaker. House Bill 4026, did it come back from the Senate and was it reported? Was a message received on that?
4026?
Yes.
It has not been received at this time, no, sir. Committee substitute for Senate Bill 1077 has been received and will be referred to the Committee on Education. Are there further Senate messages at this time? If not, resolutions.
House Concurrent Resolution 25 requesting a study on reducing non-revenue water through leak detection, infrastructure improvements, performance-based incentives to stabilize water rates.
Gentleman first.
Mr. Speaker, unanimous consent that the further reading of resolutions introduced be dispensed with, that each resolution be considered as having been formally introduced and referred to the appropriate committee as indicated on the Chamber Automation System.
Gentleman from the first ask unanimous consent that the further reading of resolutions introduced be dispensed with and that each resolution be considered as having been formally introduced and referred to the appropriate committees as indicated on the Chamber Automation System. Are there objections? No objections are heard. Petitions. Unfinished business. Bills introduced. Motions. Bills on third reading.
Committee substitute for Senate Bill 659 prohibiting certain restrictions on regulation of accessory dwelling units.
The question before the House is, shall the bill pass? Are there objections to having this bill explained in lieu of having the bill read? If not, gentleman from the 68th, Douglas Phillips, to explain the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This committee substitute for Senate Bill 659, as amended on the floor, adds a new article to Chapter 8 of the State Code relating to accessory dwelling units, or ADUs. This bill forbids municipalities from prohibiting the use of at least one ADU on a lot or parcel that contains a single-family dwelling, but allows them to require design restrictions for such units in historic preservation areas. Private covenants to restrict ADU placement are not impacted by the bill. Finally, the bill requires ADUs that are manufactured housing to be installed on a permanent foundation and to be taxed as real property. I urge passage.
Question again before the House is, shall the bill pass? Is there debate on the bill? If not, those in favor of passage of the bill will please vote aye. Those opposed will please vote no. The clerk will prepare the machine. Has every member voted? If so, the clerk will please close the machine and ascertain the result on that question. There are 85 ayes, 10 nays, and 4 members absent. A majority of the members having voted in the affirmative, the chair declares the bill passed. The clerk will please report the title.
Committee substitute for Senate Bill 659.
Are there title amendments? If not, the title as read by the clerk will be and remain the title of the bill. The clerk will please communicate the action of the House to the Senate. Next bill on third reading.
House Bill 4360, relating generally to allowing the Supreme Court of Appeals discretion to create uniform pay scales for all levels of judicial support staff.
The question before the House is, shall the bill pass? Are there objections to having this bill explained in lieu of having the bill read? If not, gentleman the 72nd, Douglas Riley, to explain the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This bill would allow Supreme Court to include magistrate court clerks, magistrate court deputy clerks, magistrate court assistants, family court secretary clerks, and family court family case coordinators within the pay scale used by the Supreme Court for all its other employees. I urge passage.
The question again before the House is, shall the bill pass? Is there debate on the bill? Gentleman the 69th, Douglas Marple, is recognized on the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Would the gentleman from the Finance Committee yield?
Yes, sir.
I have a question on page 1, line 9 and 10. It says that the salaries of the magistrate court clerk shall be determined by a pay scale established by the administrative director of Supreme Court. It further goes on line 10, it says Magistrate court clerks may receive any general salary increase granted to state employees whose salaries are not set by statute. Are they going to get pay raises twice in 1 year?
No, it'll be established as determined by the Administrative Director of the Supreme Court. That was existing code that you referenced on line 11 and 12 from 2023.
If it's set by the administrative staff of the Supreme Court, is that in code? Does that become?
So they don't, their pay would be determined by the administrative of the Supreme Court. They don't get a in-code statute pay raise.
Well, then why would those lines be left in there and not scratched out? To me, it appears to be doublespeak. It also goes down on page 4, line 20, for magistrate court deputy clerks, and on page 5, line 21, on all family secretary clerks. The same, to me, it's doublespeak.
It's in every section, sir, because it was existing code from 2023 when they adjusted the salary, just like state police previously.
Did the Supreme Court request this bill?
Yes.
Well, I'm not in favor of turning it over to them, so I ask permission to speak against the bill.
Gentleman is recognized.
I worked 20 years for the Supreme Court. They're awful stingy with their pay raises, very often, much more so than the rest of the state employees. And they submitted a bill here last year that gave only the judges pay raises, left out the magistrates. And this House turned them down. The bill died. I'm not in favor of this bill. I think the current employees of the court system who are receiving the same pay raises the other state employees are receiving is fair and a just way to pay them. And if you depend upon the Supreme Court, they're going to slight these lower staff employees. I've seen it for 20 years. And I urge you, reject this bill and let the employees, the clerks of the magistrate court, the family court, and the Supreme Court get the pay raise like every other West Virginia employee. Thank you.
From the 65th, Douglas Martin's recognized on the bill.
No further question?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Could you tell me, does this affect secretaries for circuit judges?
No.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Question still is, shall the bill pass? Is there further debate on the bill? Does the gentleman wish to close debate on the bill? Gentleman, the 72nd to close debate on the bill.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Very briefly, you know, this bill has passed this House twice, this body. When 2024 by 94 to 1, and 2025 it was 90 to 2. The testimony that we have heard over the past 3 years, including this year, was that it really facilitated retention of our employees. It gave them an improved morale because they had a path to grow in their career and continue to add value. It allowed them to be rewarded for their education and their experience. So based upon all those facts, I urge passage.
Debate on the bill has been closed. The question before the House is, shall the bill pass? Those in favor of passage of the bill will please vote aye. Those opposed will please vote no. The clerk will prepare the machine. Has every member voted? Gentleman, the 84th Delegate Jennings, your vote's not registered. Clerk will please close the machine and ascertain the result on that question. There were 86 ayes, 9 nays, and 4 members absent. A majority of the members having voted in the affirmative, the chair declares the bill passed. The clerk will please report the title.
House Bill 4360.
Are there title amendments? If not, the title as read by the clerk will be and remain the title of the bill. The clerk will please communicate the action of the House to the Senate. Next bill on third reading.
House Bill 4421, providing guidelines for the West Virginia Parkways Authority to cease tolls on the West Virginia Turnpike upon completion of all bond payments.
The question before the House is, shall the bill pass? Are there objections to having this bill explained in lieu of having the bill read? No objections are heard, and the gentleman, the 37th, the Gearhart's recognized to explain the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The description read by the clerk is essentially what this bill does, and that is upon payment of all bonded indebtedness on the West Virginia Turnpike, the turnpike would become toll-free. You all may have heard me refer a couple of times in this chamber items about the history of the West Virginia Turnpike. Legislation for the West Virginia Turnpike came out in 1949. The payment of bonds that are currently due are in two series, the first of which is in 2049 and 2051. This part of the code was there from 1949 until 2017, at which time it was removed, whether accidentally or on purpose, I don't know. But it was removed when this body adopted the Roads to Prosperity Bond Allowance for the West Virginia Turnpike. This simply reestablishes code as it was prior, so that at the 100th anniversary of the West Virginia Turnpike, it might return to the status originally intended to be toll-free once it was paid for. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Question now before the House is, shall the bill pass? Is there debate on the bill? If not, those in favor of passage of the bill will please vote aye. Those opposed will please vote no. The clerk will prepare the machine. Has every member voted? If so, the clerk will close the machine and ascertain the result. On that question, there were 95 ayes, 0 nays, and 4 members absent. A majority of the members having voted in the affirmative, the chair declares the bill passed. The clerk will please report the title.
House Bill 4421.
Are there title amendments? If not, the title as read by the clerk will be and remain the title of the bill. The clerk will please communicate the action of the House to the Senate. Next bill on third reading.
House Bill 4425 to repeal the provision allowing for students to transfer from one school to another without losing eligibility.
The question before the House is, shall the bill pass? Are there objections to having this bill explained in lieu of having the bill read? No objections are heard. Gentleman to 37, Mr. Gearhart is recognized to explain the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm not certain that this will be as easy as the last one. However, this will be the simplest bill that you will vote on this session. This is a simple repeal of a small section of code that was inserted commanding the WVSSAC within its rules to allow for multiple transfers outside of the rule that they had already established. This bill simply repeals that section that went into code, which would in fact mean that that rule would now go back to the WVSSAC to establish a transfer rule, and they would need to take that back before the State Board of Education for approval. I urge adoption, Mr. Chairman.
The question before the House now is, shall the bill pass? Is there debate on the bill? Gentleman from the 54th, Douglas Pushkin, is recognized on the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Would the gentleman yield?
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Just to be clear, what we're repealing is the directive that this body put in code, I believe, a couple sessions ago, that directed the SSAC to come up with a rule to allow for transfers. That's what's being repealed.
That is correct, yes, sir.
So if they take no action, you have the rule they have, or they could go back in. It doesn't necessarily mean they're going to go back to what they had. It means they can come up with a new rule, right?
You are accurate in that statement. The absence of a rule would put them in the position of establishing a rule, but it does not direct that specific rule. My understanding is in conversation that the rule would be very similar to the prior rule, but that is simply a conversational item. It would be something for the member schools and their directors to vote on, to establish in rule, and to submit to the State Board of Education.
That's what you heard through conversation with members of the SSAC, that they're planning on going back to the previous
Members
rule?
and their directors, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Gentleman from the 57th, Douglas Lewis, is recognized on the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. You know, I've been in here for a couple, sessions now, and I'm just perplexed on how some of us can, how can you support school choice on one hand and then tell kids they can't transfer and play extracurricular activities on the other hand? How does that work? And I'm not talking for those who stand on principles who are advocates. We don't agree, but I respect you standing on principle. I'm talking about for the remainder of us who keep giving money to Hope Scholarship, Hope Voucher Program, who keep just being quiet and towing down when it comes to school choice. And this is the result of it. When we talk about community, when we talk about these things, this is what happens. And I can speak firsthand because South Charleston High School has been decimated by this transfer rule, decimated. We went from a perennial football powerhouse to we won one game in 4 seasons. We barely scoring 5 points a game. I think we had a season where we scored 10, maybe 5, 6 touchdowns in a season. We couldn't even field a girls basketball team this year. We had students that had to go because of that. So for those who are advocates for public schools, we even got teachers in here. Let's stand on principles and saying this is not working. I think we had the Rand Corporation come here and said this ain't working. It's not only working for our educational choices, it's not working for extracurriculars. And for some of us, myself included, I'm only here because of, football and sports that got me through. So while I'm going to be supporting the bill hesitantly, because again, I don't necessarily trust the WVSSAC. They screwed up the football formula as far as making the new classifications. We're seeing what's going on with Capitol High School right now. But I think we have to do something in order to preserve the sanctity of our sports in our school, because that's how some kids are going to get through. So again, I'm going to support the bill, but what I ask you, for those who are going to support the bills, for those who are advocates of public education, stand on business, stand on principle, and let's not cherry pick what we choose to support. Thank you.
Gentleman from the 99th, Doug Clark.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Folks, I have an interesting district. I have 2 4A high schools that are in my district, and I have one of the smallest districts in the state. That's how condensed we are. My athletic directors have been asking me since the very day we passed this to repeal it, to get rid of it. Every high school in my area are all 4A schools. Every athletic director is for repealing this. I urge passage of this. Thank you.
Gentleman from the 64th, Doug Burkhammer is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm going to rise in opposition. And gentleman from Kanawha made a really valid point. He said he's only here today because of sports, because of football, because he had an opportunity to go and to excel, and that sport led him to probably to a higher education. Higher education costs average about $100,000. Oftentimes, our student athletes are able to move to a team that would allow them to excel, that would put them in the highlights, to then propel them into a free education. $100,000 savings to our families. Maybe they end up being a delegate one day. Or we can limit them, because we're maybe frustrated that our hometown team isn't doing as good as what we had liked. We can say, you're forced into this mold, into this bubble because of your address. Doesn't matter how good you are, doesn't matter how the program's doing, doesn't matter the quality of coaching, the quality of the training facilities, all of these things that go into it. You're going to say, you're stuck right there. I thought we stood for freedom. I thought we stood with our families and said, you've got the right to choose what's best for your child, both in education and extracurricular. I can't imagine limiting kids. There's an individual in my district, he's a D1 soccer player. I mean, the kid he's the real deal. And right now what we're doing to him is we're putting uncertainty into his future. We're not even sure that we're going to be able to field a men's soccer team at Lewis County this year. No fault to his own, but right now, there's uncertainty in his future to be able to go be a standout soccer player his senior year. And I just can't do that to kids. I can't do that just so that my team can win some more football games, or my team can make a couple more threes on the court. I cannot stand to limit the opportunities for our youth and our student athletes. I oppose the bill.
Gentleman from the 28th, Doug Browning.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I like the delegate from the 57th, would not be here today without sports. It shaped me. It taught me discipline. It taught me to work harder than the next guy. It taught me how to overcome adversity. It taught me how to get myself out of the situation I was in. It taught me a lot. But I'm going to switch gears a little bit. A few years ago, I ran a gym that trained athletes in high school. And I had a young man come to me one time and he said, "Hey, I want to be a starter on my basketball team." I said, "Okay." Started doing some measurements. He wasn't tallest, definitely wasn't the fastest, was probably the weakest, and overall just not a great athlete. But as a freshman, he started coming to me and was working. Well, he didn't play a single game his freshman year. His sophomore year, he came back, kept working, didn't play very much on the JV team as a sophomore. Junior year, same thing, but he kept coming back and he kept working. Senior year comes around, little Zach grew a couple inches, got a heck of a lot stronger, got faster, got mentally tougher, ended up playing. He was a sixth man on a high school team that ended up going to the playoffs. That young man went on to college, got a degree, became a lawyer, married, and very successful, and a big-time advocate and a big-time contributor to his community. So while there are one-offs that I completely understand, and I get the gentleman from Harrison, I completely understand, I'm sorry, from Lewis, I completely get those arguments. And with that, I say the SAC needs to get their house in order, because those instances are why we're in the situation we are now, where we just repeal the entire thing, and then we have the Wild West. So they need to get theirs in order too, and look at young men like that, and make sure that they have options as well. So I'll be supporting this bill, and I'll be supporting it not because we're trying to limit kids and what they do, but we're trying to build young men and women to be successful in life. That's what sports are really about. Teach them discipline, teach them how to overcome adversity, and I promise you, once they get out of school, they'll be far more successful than if you just allowed them to quit every time something got hard. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Lady from the 19th, Doug Kraus is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This bill hurts students, period. It hurts homeschool students, private school students, charter, micro school, even public school students who have to maybe leave for safety reasons. The repeal does not protect competitive balance. It punishes children. It removes a safety valve that families rely on when something goes wrong. It forces students to stay in unsafe situations of maybe bullying, abuse, be it emotional, physical, sexual, harassment, being sexualized, and molestation. The abuses can come from teachers, coaches, staff, other students, parents, and administration. We are not talking about recruiting wars. We're talking about children trying to escape harm. We just had a real example just about 2 weeks ago. In Berkeley County, a janitor was hiding in a closet in a girl's locker room, watching those girls, taping them, and who knows what else he was doing. Those girls, if this bill is repealed, those girls would not be able to transfer out of that school to a safer school, a school they felt safe in. And we know SSAC will go back to the same way they were. And we know that has not worked. Waivers, they say they have. It's not a real safety net. Students must relive abuse when they apply. They must tell deeply personal trauma stories. They fear retaliation. Appeals of that can cost up to $10,000 or more. Families without money cannot fight this. Justice should not depend on your bank account. The data does not support a repeal. 0.1% of students transferred this past year. 0.1%. 0.5% overall in the last 3 years. That's even a smaller percentage if you count in all of the students across all the different types of schooling. Home, micro, private, charter. We are rewriting policy over half of a 1%. This is not a crisis. This is not chaos. This is not a transfer portal problem. We hear a lot about the blowout football games. Well, I can tell you what, they happened before this transfer portal was put in effect. In 2022, there was at least 5 blowouts. At least one of those was over a 70-point spread. In 21, there was at least another 5 blowouts, with at least one of those being over a 70-point spread. And for the decade before, there were even more. SSAC is governed by 5 high school principals, 3 board members, and 2 associations. There are no parents on these boards, there's no legislative oversight, and there's no accountability to voters or parents. Who's protecting the students? Who's speaking for the parents? This board only answers to itself. SSAC has a pattern of behavior. They did not even bother coming to the Education Committee to answer questions when this bill was up for a vote. They could have cared less. But they were more than happy to show up when a homeschool bill went through that would have allowed organized homeschool teams, sports teams, organizations of several hundred to join in on SSAC games. They definitely came to speak out about that, but they didn't bother to come speak and answer any questions for this one. This law has only been in effect for 3 years, just since 2023. We have not given it enough time, and policy should not swing back and forth every few years. The core principles of this is we need to protect children and families and victims. It is a punishment for children. This repeal takes away one safeguard students have when something goes wrong. And when I say wrong, I don't mean losing a season. I mean bullying, harassment, abuse. I mean the kind of situation no child should ever have to endure. Under this repeal, a student fleeing a toxic and unsafe environment must sit out a year, unless they are willing to relive the trauma, file paperwork, beg for a waiver, and possibly spend thousands of dollars fighting the denial. Justice should not depend on whether or not their parents can afford that. And let's talk about some facts. Transfers under the law account for roughly, as I said, 0.1% of students last year, and only 0.5% over the last 3. At the end of the day, this bill will protect the system and allow the SSAC to do what they've done. I will not vote to tell a child that their safety comes second to a scoreboard, and I urge rejection. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Lady from the 20th, I got Drennan's recognized on the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today, colleagues, I stand to support 4425. The current law has created instability across our schools. When an outside transfer takes a starting position, a local student often loses playing time and a roster space, thus feeling pressure to transfer elsewhere, and the cycle continues. While I feel for students that feel like they haven't someplace else to go, there is in fact a petition process, which allows students to go before the board and request to have a transfer. This bill doesn't eliminate that process. There are also serious safety concerns we need to take into consideration. When programs assemble super teams, by pulling top athletes from surrounding communities, the competitive imbalance grows. Those same teams often compete against the schools they depleted. The result is not healthy competition, but mismatched games where younger, less physically developed athletes are placed at higher risk of injury. Safety and student well-being must come first. We must also acknowledge the impact on community identity. In areas where schools have been rebuilt and strengthened through taxpayer investments, those resources are now being used as recruiting tools. At the very heart, communities are being stripped away of the very players they've raised. Students who live in these districts, who grew up in the youth leagues, who sit in these classrooms, whose families support and fund those schools, deserve the opportunity to compete in their own home school. High school athletics were never intended to operate like a free agency. Most importantly, we need to put our local students first. As lawmakers, as parents, it's our responsibility to ensure that high school sports remains about character, teamwork, and pride in your community. Local schools deserve to compete. Local students deserve to compete in their local schools. Let's restore stability, prioritize safety, and support House Bill 4425. Thank you.
Lady from the 9th, I got Kelly's recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Students can still transfer, even with this bill and with the repeal of the previous bill. If this was about safety issues, they are still able to transfer. And obviously, these safety issues are still happening, even though there was, another standard put in place. The safety issues have nothing to do with this bill. This is about being able to play sports. This is about being able to play sports in your own community. When students are transferring from their own community just to be in a better sports program, it leaves many sports programs without enough students to have a team. That's what's happening in my district. Now, we have delegates here that have spoken about making it through because of sports. There are students in my district that are not being given that opportunity because they're not being given the opportunity to play certain sports. As students move out of the district just to be in a better program, they're leaving their fellow students unable to play sports in my district. I am standing here speaking in favor of this bill. Please, let's put sports in the hands of all students, not just the ones who can find a way to transfer to a better program.
Gentleman the 6th, I got Stevens.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As I stand in support of House Bill 4425, as a former coach, former athletic director, and current teacher, just as all we're doing is repealing. So we're not replacing with the old. This would be up to the West Virginia SSAC to make a new rule. So to make a new rule, that's the principals of your schools. Everybody has schools in their districts. If you want a rule change with the West Virginia SSAC, call your principals. Have your parents call your principals. The calls that they're getting from the coaches are, we don't like this. These are calls from coaches that are succeeding with this rule because they're getting recruits, but they know that our team could be next. I could build this kid up as a freshman, as a sophomore, as a junior, and then another neighboring school in this school, they both have good players, they might both be good, but if we both went to the same school, we're going to be really good. So that coach that has put time into these students for 3 years, now see them go and play for another school. And these kids, some are even transferring back just to graduate with their friends. So they're going for athletic purposes. That's another situation. If you look in the rules, these transfers are supposed to be made for academic purposes only, not athletic purposes. We're looking at academic reasons. So if you're transferring to play basketball, to play baseball, to play football, you're supposed to be transferring for an academic reason, not an athletic reason. If you decide to transfer, there are ways to do this. with the old rule, with the current rule. With the old rule, you could transfer if you move. Your family makes a legitimate move to another community, you can transfer and you can play sports at that school. Also, you can apply for a waiver. If you're being bullied, you're being harassed, you can apply for a waiver. 69% of those waivers were approved by the West Virginia SSAC, 69%. Okay, so as we talk about numbers, 69% of their waivers have been approved in the past. We always pass these bills talking about student discipline. Well, if I know I'm playing football at a school and I'm transferring out to play basketball, why would I follow their rules? Why would I maybe even keep my grades up? Because I'm transferring out in this new school that I'm going to play basketball at, they'll probably be able to find me some classes where I could bring my grades up to be eligible. I think that could happen. West Virginia, we're known for being homey, community-based. And when you get some of these small schools and they have that one good basketball player, that one good football player, and everybody in the community comes out to support that team and that player because that player makes them that much better. But now that player transfers out and that player goes to a bigger school, and now that player and that community is separated. And now that community isn't there to support. You don't see your neighbor at the basketball game. You may not see your neighbor at the football game. And you may not support that family anymore in that community. And that's an issue that you may have. Sometimes we always talk about less government, less government, less government. Until we find a rule that we don't like, and then we want more government. The West Virginia SSAC is not a government organization. We don't fund them. We don't give them any money. They're privately supported through sponsorships. So now we kind of want them, we don't really like your rules, so we're going to change it and make transfers, anywhere you want to go. All we're doing, again, is repealing what we put in place by a law. What about those girls at South Charleston that didn't have a basketball team? What about the ones that they didn't want to leave their school? They love South Charleston. They love being a student there. They love their teachers. They didn't want to leave, but they wanted to play basketball. This year they didn't have that opportunity because they had some transfers and they transferred out. As we talk about this and we talk about recruiting, and you're not allowed to recruit, you're not allowed to even talk about it. If a parent or a student comes up to you and says, hey, I want to go to X school, the immediate response has to be, you have to talk to my principal. Like, you're not allowed to discuss that at all. Now you're kind of forcing some of these coaches to say, do I want to lose my players, or do I have to recruit in order to compete and make a competitive team? I know a student that came in wearing a different school sweatshirt into school and was asked, hey, where'd you get that at? A coach from another school gave that to me and was texting me after the game last night because they really don't want me to go to this high school. They want me to go to another high school. So you have middle school kids being recruited. Middle school kids. These are kids that are 13 and 14 years old. With a bully situation, again, I have a former student athlete that went to a local high school, and she was bullied. They did waiver with the SSAC. That waiver was not granted, and I will say that. But the father called me on the phone the other day, and he said, Jeff, we have to do something about this. We can't have football players playing for a school on Saturday and then playing for a basketball school on Monday, a different school. He said, how do we fix that? And he told me about his daughter's situation. I know his daughter really well, and he said, use my situation. He said, we have to talk to the SSAC. We have to talk to our legislators to take care of the bullying situation. And I said, we can do that. But he said, Jeff, we can't have these kids transferring all around these schools playing sports. He said, I do not want that. So that's from both sides of it. I'd just like you to think about this and just know that you're repealing this. And as a legislator, if somebody in your community, reach out to your principals. Reach out to them and say, this is what we would like. The rules meeting is at the end of this month. You can call your principals and say, this is what we would like added. This is what we'd like to see done. But with the passage of this, it can be repealed, and we can get something that everybody's in agreement with. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Gentleman the third, Doug Willis.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise today, colleagues, opposed to this bill. I've had many conversations with the gentleman from the 37th, and I couldn't tell you how many hours I've talked high school sports with the gentleman from the 6th. But colleagues, I come at this with a little different perspective than most in this chamber. I was just there. 3 years ago, we did this legislation. 4 years before that, almost to the day, was the last time I wore a uniform for my high school. And I'll say this, it's crazy. That's the example I want to give is how quickly life can change in 4 years, right? 4 years before, I was wearing a jersey. 4 years later, I'm in the State House. 3 years ago, we changed this law. Today, we're going to change it again. And I want to point that out because a lot of other things have changed in the last 3 years in sports, whether it's pro, college, high school. But here in West Virginia, the biggest change is there's now NIL. The WVSSAC just allowed that. And that's going to have an impact on this. And I know that the rule will most likely be like it was, where you can move and then you can still transfer. Let me ask this. Do we not think that for some athlete, some NIL deal that would be about the same price as a house won't happen if that kid's good enough? And so, colleagues, I just want to urge caution with what we're doing here. I join my colleague from the 28th in saying to the WVSSAC that we have to be careful with how we go forward here. Is the current rule the right one? I don't know. Is a repeal the right decision? I also don't know. But I urge everyone to use extreme caution because the changes in athletics over the last few years have been monumental, and over the next few years, they're going to be monumental again. So I'm a no on this. I urge everyone to think deeply about the entire debate they've heard today when they make their decision. And just remember that this landscape has changed so much in the last 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, and it's going to change a lot in the next 10 years. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
From the 25th, Delegate Hornbuckle.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Colleagues, I want to warn you all that we're never going to get a perfect solution out of this piece of legislation, out of this topic. I think we are doing a grave injustice, no matter if this is voted up or down, no matter how anyone votes, if we don't give true, mature reflection. And so today I rise to advise the WVSSAC to put together a true task force. To put together a true task force. This has ironically been one of the better debates this year. Hasn't been nasty, no food fighting. People are having actual civil discourse, what we should be doing. I agree with the gentleman from the 28th, my neighbor in Wayne County. I agree with the gentleman from the 64th, and my good buddy from the 57th. They all made very good points. To the gentleman from the 28th, he talked about getting over adversity. And so the icky part about transfer sometimes is that you will have typically the parent, not even the student athlete, that's just changing because they fell upon hard times. They couldn't play here, so they switched there. Couldn't play there, then they're going to switch somewhere else. And they're just going to keep on doing it. And it ends up hurting the kid because then they grow up doing that, quitting. And you got to be able to grow up and be able to get over adversity. I also agree with the gentleman from the 64th, talking about opportunity. Opportunity is key, and so on the other side of this, and some other people have talked about that, we're good in West Virginia, but we don't always do it the best. You know, I'll never forget one of my good friends actually blew his ankle out at Marshall University and was going to the NFL, but Curtis Jones from Florida. And he decided, you all will be proud, after having a great experience in Huntington, to make West Virginia his home. But he always talks about, and some of you all sports enthusiasts in here will know where I'm going with this, we talk about football. You talk about Ohio, Texas, Florida, California. He says, Sean, our kids here in West Virginia are just as good as those athletes in Florida. We have a development problem here. The kids where I used to live at, they're doing some of the things in high school here. They're doing those in elementary. We're Pee Wee Football League. And so I would say a part of that task force is we probably need to include the best and brightest developers and coaches to make sure we're doing it the best way, to make sure we're giving them a fighting chance. You know, the gentle lady from the night, she spoke about community. And so I get that. You know, especially in West Virginia, you go to some of these smaller places. I love my Southern Coalfields. That Friday night is everything. That Friday night is everything. Not everybody can afford to go to a Marshall WVU game. And so the town rallies around Friday night lights. And when they have some of those other kids leave, sometimes it can even have an effect on the economy. It really, really does. And so we have to be very thoughtful when we're thinking about this. On the academics, appreciate the gentleman from the 6th, that also goes both ways. There are some times where you got some people in that school system that all they cared about is that volleyball win, that baseball win, that football win. So they're not checking the kids' grades in the school. So a parent should have the ability to go to a better academic performing school, even if it's based around sports, if that is the goal. You know, my buddy from the 58th, he said, "Hey, didn't your cousin go to South Charleston?" And I said, "Well, actually, she went to Capital too. She had to transfer her 9th grade year because she was at Dunbar Junior High. And it made no sense going into 9th grade that the best player in the state was still having to play junior high basketball because that was going to impede her development. And so she went to Capital because it wasn't a South Charleston High School for 9th graders at that point. And obviously most of you all know the story, 4 state championships and National Player of the Year senior year, and is the most accomplished high school basketball player, male or female, the state has ever seen. More awards than Jerry West or Hal Greer. But it happened because we had the choice to be able to do that, right? And so again, what I would say is there's a lot of different points on this topic, and I don't think anybody's really wrong. I think the solution is having a robust task force to be able to put something together that speaks to adversity, that speaks to opportunity, and make sure our communities can stay whole. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Gentleman the 16th, Doug Parsons.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise in support of this repeal. And with all due respect to the delegate from the 19th, the SSAC is governed by the principals of every member school. They do elect 5 members to manage the SSAC. Many students wait their early days in high school for the opportunity to play for their home school. But with the current law, they lose that opportunity to another student who was possibly recruited to that high school. And according to the SSAC, recruitment is a serious issue. There have been 1,261 transfers since the current rule was implemented. 0.5% sounds like a little number. That sounds like a large number. That's almost as many students in many of our largest high schools. Wide margins of victory have become a serious problem. As a matter of fact, the SSAC has had to change their current, quote, mercy rule and implement that rule in many other sports. It used to be in football, the mercy rule only took place in the 4th quarter. They moved it to the 3rd quarter. They've also implemented mercy rules in softball, baseball, and soccer. To give you an example, in 2024, 41% of high school football games were shortened by the mercy rule. In 2025, that number jumps to 44%. Total games played in those years were 674. 106 of those games were decided by more than 42 points. 197 of those games were decided by 35 or more points, which means the total number of games shortened was almost half at 303. It's been said that by some of the members of this body that prior to the current rules, a student was stuck at their home school. Nothing can be further than the truth. There have always been ways for students to transfer between schools for valid reasons, educational reasons. Of course, if a family moves into a new district, that student is eligible to play sports. The SSAC also offered a waiver program, which has been mentioned several times, and they have approved almost 69% of those requests. The SSAC has long stated that their interest in preserving competitive integrity in community-based schools, preventing recruitment abuses, and ensuring that the student remains the center of that student athlete. I believe that's what the majority of this body wants, and that's what I would prefer, and I urge passage.
From the 18th, Douglas Butler.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Would my friend, the gentleman from the 37th, yield to a question, please?
Yes, sir. I was just getting comfortable. Thank you.
It looked like it. Okay, thank you. I'm just hearing some of the folks who are in favor of this bill. It makes it seem like students are just transferring kind of willy-nilly from one school to the next. I want to make sure I'm understanding this correctly. Is it the case that a student, under the current law, not with your bill, but the current law, can change one time in their four-year high school career?
No, I don't believe that that's correct. I think
That isn't correct? What is the circumstance then?
I think they can transfer effectively as they wish outside of practice. Once they begin practice at a particular activity, they can't transfer out of that into another school. So I am aware of athletes that have participated in one sport, and then after that season expired, prior to beginning practice at another sport, were able to transfer to that school and participate there.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that answer. Would the lady from Putnam give this a shot also? Because I think maybe you have different information.
Yes.
So yeah, can they only change one time in 4 years in their high school?
Just one time, correct.
One time.
Yes, so maybe they start out in one school at the beginning of the year and decide switching to another school later on in the year is what they want to do. They could do that, continue playing sports at that other school. If they switched again, they would then have to set out a year. So it's one-time switch for this. Anything past that, they have to set out a year.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that clarification.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
From the 46th, Douglas Campbell.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise in support of House Bill 4425. I've been involved in high school athletics for over 40 years. The transfer policy enacted 3 years ago has disrupted the integrity of athletics in West Virginia. While students have the right to transfer, there are cases of bad actors tipping the scales to disrupt competitive balance. I've personally seen text messages proving that tampering is taking place across the state. One athlete explained to his former coach how the process began, where he was asked to come to workouts at another school. The second one was between a coach at one school and a student athlete at a rival school, saying they needed someone at his football position. This is wrong. Numerous other stories are out there across the state. Transfer is legal. Recruiting is not. This has been a problem since its inception 3 years ago. The transfer portal has ruined college sports. Let's not let it do the same thing to West Virginia high school athletics. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
From the 55th, Douglas Akers.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This isn't something we should have been legislating in the first place. I urge passage.
From the 29th, Douglas Dillon.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Standing here listening to this debate, everyone cares so much about the sports. and I love sports. I played a variety of sports growing up. You know what else I did? I read books. You know how many functioning libraries we have in Wayne County with librarians in them? Right there. And we're losing our libraries in Mingo County as well. They're being converted into things like STEM centers. The book and the library should be the center of the school. That should be what we're in here trying to address today. I'm sick of this whole debate, and I move the previous question, Mr. Speaker.
Gentleman, the 29th moves the previous question on the bill. Is the request sustained? Gentleman from the 54th will state the question. Gentleman from the 54th raised it first.
Question. Can you speak to a question and then call a point of
Gentleman is correct. The point of order is sustained. Chair is in error. Gentleman is correct. Both gentlemen are correct. Gentleman, the 60th, Douglas Farrell.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And as we've several people mentioned, some very good points made here. And I want to get back to the main purpose of the bill, and that is to remove this body from having our fingers in the pie of something that most of us know very little about, have very little experience with, and even if we did, we do not have the agility to be able to move. As the gentleman from Brook mentioned, sports is changing all the time. So we have to be able to navigate that, manage it, and all we're doing is turning this back over to, and not necessarily the SSAC. Let's not think that this is some dark star chamber force up in Parkersburg that's out to get young people and stop them from doing what they want to do. This is the 110-member high schools administrators that come together to actually want to meet here at the end of the month. They'll set the rules. We don't set them. The SSAC in Parkersburg doesn't set them. They're just there to enforce. So all we're doing is just turning it back over to this body of administrators who we trust with our children every day. 180 days out of the year. Now let's also think about how we even got here. The gentle lady from Putnam talked about, we don't want to pass a bill, then turn around and not pass a bill. Well, let's just think. This original legislation came to us 2 or 3 years straight and was turned down by this body, rejected. And the only way it's in law right now is because it attached itself to another bill on the last hour, the last day of the session in 2023, like a parasite. It snuck its way through there, and we said then this was going to be a problem, and certainly was. And then Governor Justice understood enough, being a coach himself, refused to sign the bill because of the amendment. He just let it roll over into law. And then later on came in here at the State of the State address the following year and begged us to repeal it. And ever since then, this battle's been on. But some said, hey, let's wait and see the data. And of course, the data's been rolled out here by a gentleman from Jackson County. The data, as they said before, well, there's been blowouts beforehand. Well, then guess what? They didn't just double, they tripled over that period of time. And since then, too, we've run into coach after coach, as the gentleman from Jefferson mentioned, has begged us to do something about it. And not just any coaches. These are coaches that are in position to benefit from this, most likely legendary coaches across the state of West Virginia. Some of them, I'm just going to mention the name here because I get it every day. Rick Green, state championship GW basketball last year. David Walker, Martinsburg football. Billy Seals, Huntington football. Alan Osborne, Polka basketball. Mick Price, Ravenswood basketball. Eddie Smolder, Winfield football. Wes Eddy, West Virginia Coaches Association. John Carpenter, Capital football. Tony Gibson, head football coach at Marshall University. Fred Persinger, who we all recognize as the voice of high school sports in West Virginia. Carl Lee, former South Charleston standout Marshall star and NFL All-Pro, said, hey, if the high schools get caught in this, on the back end of it, they're in a death spiral. It's almost impossible for them to pull out. And then we talked about kids that may be in a tough situation and not be able to get out of it. And that's the reason they may want to transfer. I don't know of a single documented case yet, could be wrong, but I don't know of a single documented case before this law where a kid was being bullied or mistreated and such, and the SSAC did not listen to that appeal or grant that appeal. Could be wrong, but I don't know of any documented cases in there. And let's remember what are always going to be individual reasons as to why someone wants to transfer. And sometimes they can make a good reason. Well, probably most of the time they're going to make a good reason individually why they needed to move from one school or team to the other. However, collectively, what we've done is create an open borders situation. Anybody at any given time in their high school career can move. And so you mix that with, as the gentleman from Brook mentioned, we've got travel ball that's proliferated across the country, and it is a vicious cycle, every man for himself type of mentality, and you mix that with this current legislation that we're under, and you get the situation that we are with the lopsided scores. We've had shortened games, as mentioned, forfeited games, forfeited seasons. It's just been a total mess. And then we also get anecdotal cases that come up. Let me tell you about a couple just there's anecdotal cases on the other end. My school, the year after this bill passed, we had 2 or 3 of our star football players transfer out. One of them went to the rival school, then come back, that rival school come over to play at our school, which we hadn't won a game at that point by now. We lost several of our star players. They were undefeated. Those players that had transferred out are out on the field scoring touchdowns, making big plays against the very teammates that they just played with and practiced with just a few weeks before. In fact, one of them's sister was cheerleading on the other school's sideline, and yet the brother was on the other team running up the score 77-0. And then the announcer at the game refuses to start announcing the names of the boys that are making the plays. Well, consequently, obviously, some very bad blood after the game. Parents jumped on the internet, and denim was everywhere. Businesses were boycotted. It was community against community, in which communities that just a short time beforehand had helped each other during flood situations. And that's the type of vitriol that we set the tone for because of this piece of legislation. And like I said, I don't know what's going to happen once we hand the keys back over to these schoolmasters and the principals. But hopefully, like I said, we entrust them with our very kids every day. Every day. And so we're just saying, hey, look, let's set it back, as someone mentioned. Let's give them the opportunity to get this right. But one thing's for certain, we are not equipped here. As the gentleman said, he spent 40 years or more in this. That's the way it feels sometimes. I know it goes by quick. But I've been more than 30, I know, in this. And you get to the point, I don't even feel qualified myself, and very few of us. But one thing I do know, the gentleman that sponsored the bill has spent countless hours, days, and games on the field and on the hardwood courts of West Virginia as an official, trying to mitigate, trying to make sure, look out for the safety and the well-being of our student athletes, not just for one school, but for all the schools. For all the schools. And he seems to think this is the best move. I'm going to trust his wisdom on this because we certainly don't have, I'd say, even a collective body, the ability to be able to understand and know what's going on with sports right now. Let's put it back into the hands of the people that have not only the ability to do it, they're never going to get it perfect, as somebody mentioned, but they have the ability to be able to make the change, unlike we can do here. Once we make a change and we're set, it's very, very difficult to undo it. So with that, I rise in support of the gentleman's bill. Thank you, Mr.
Further debate on the bill. Gentleman, the 37th, close debate on the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I'll try to tie this up as quickly as I can. Initially, I'd like to apologize to the gentleman from Mason and the lady from Putnam. The example that I gave you is accurate. I am familiar with a student that did in fact play football at one school and did in fact transfer to basketball at a second school in the same season. However, they are only allowed one transfer after the initial time that they would be allowed to transfer, which was before they enter secondary school. So if you were in the 8th grade going to the 9th, you could move wherever you want to, and after that you would have the opportunity to move somewhere else. So for the record, for this body, and you can write this down, I may not have said this before, but I was wrong, and I apologize. With that said, and the Speaker and I have had this conversation on a couple of occasions, it would be nice if the same level of excitement arose at the local chemistry fair and those that were competing in that do in high school extracurricular activities. It's just not always the case. And I think that we've had that conversation because he thinks that's extremely important, and I do also. But I think that there are really important things about extracurricular activities in high school. I want to clear up a couple of comments that we've made. The lady from Putnam made a very strong, impassioned argument. Make no mistake, I have no intention of ever putting someone in the position to be abused or treated poorly. That's not the intention of this repeal. I think the majority of the things that the lady mentioned, frankly, violate state law and would put someone in a very precarious position. I also know that there is a process by which the WVSSAC evaluates the individual circumstances and can and does grant waivers. Last year there were 51 requests for waivers, 35 were granted. So there is a process. It doesn't mean it's automatic. But I do believe that there are protections to keep the problems that the lady mentioned, and I consider them serious potential problems, to be mitigated and overcome. My friend from the 64th had mentioned a situation with a soccer player in his district, and I have great appreciation for that. He and I have had this discussion a couple times, and I am of the belief that regardless of where you might transfer to, if you're a stellar athlete that has potential to excel in a Division I college atmosphere or professional atmosphere, it doesn't make any difference where you play. They're going to find you. I'll give you two examples of that. One of them is from Pineville, West Virginia. A great football player that played college football, not in our state, played professional football, an exceptional athlete. Was recruited by Joe Paterno. In a different day when we didn't have videos and all of the kind of things, you had the reel-to-reel tapes to look at a player. It's my understanding that Joe Paterno never saw Kurt Warner play football before recruiting him. He went to Pineville, West Virginia when he was playing basketball and recruited him to play football because he was, in fact, an outstanding athlete. And it was evident just by the way that he played basketball that he was going to be, and turned out to be, an outstanding college football player. The other example I offered to my friend was a West Virginia football game a few years ago when they played Marshall. West Virginia won by 2 scores. It was very evident they were the better football team. But during that game, my father and I attended the game, and I said, Dad, we're going to win this ball game. However, I can tell you the best player on the field doesn't play for West Virginia. He's going to be on the losing team. West Virginia had Amos Zaraway and some great football players, but the best player on that football team was on the team that lost by 2 scores, and that was Randy Moss. That was Randy Moss. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is a privilege in the state of West Virginia to get to participate in extracurricular activities. It's a privilege. And we have chosen, good or bad, the WVSSAC to administer those programs. And I can tell you, if I went around all 100 people, 99 people in this chamber, and asked their opinion of the WVSSAC, I would get good, I would get bad, I'd probably get a little hate. Because there's emotion attached to the extracurricular activities that our student athletes participate in. And I would submit to you, if you do in fact hate the WVSSAC for whatever reason, that's probably not a good reason to vote no. Because in this particular instance, what we have done is gone to that governing board and we have enacted a specific rule concerning, frankly, something that's internal. We've done that a couple of times here. We required AEDs. I think that's important. It's a safety measure. I think we've required heat acclimatization training. That's important. It keeps kids from having serious medical problems. But this is a little more specific, and it's an inside baseball item and probably not correct and proper for state code. I'll close up with, there are a couple of reasons that I believe that we need to repeal this rule. The first one is, in fact, the simpler thing, the unbalance of competition that we have created the exchange out of a community circumstance to people moving from one school to another for whatever their reasons may be. It's not healthy. It's not good. We have had a tremendous number of transfers. There were 1,261 over the last 3 years. We had last year in football competition, there were 647 games. 303 of those games required the early end of the game because of a disparate score. That's a lot. That's a lot. So the secondary reason that I have, though, I think is more important. As I spend a little bit of time out with the athletes, I've never seen worse treatment of athletes to their coaches or to other athletes than I have in the last couple of years. I've seen athletes that have transferred in that talk to their coaches like dirt. I can tell you that during my time, I wouldn't even consider that. Okay, I didn't play enough to sacrifice what little playing time that I did get. But there's a different way of looking at things. It is all about me. It's about me. They talk to their teammates the same way. It has changed in the last couple of years. Whether it's due to this rule inserted in our code or not, there's something that's different now than there used to be. And I think that is because of the real reason that I don't believe in this. This is not what we want to teach our children. Sports are important. Maybe they're not as important as the chemistry competition or the writing competition we may have, but they're important because they teach life values that you can't learn necessarily in the classroom. They teach teamwork. They teach how to work with the person next to you and have them work with you. They teach trust, how to trust the guy in front of you to block for you or to catch the pass that you might throw or to cover the position that he's supposed to cover. They teach discipline. They teach, I got to get up and go to practice every day or I'm not going to get the opportunity to play. I've got to work hard for every minute of this particular competition or my teammates are going to get let down. They teach you important things like how do you win without being a jerk? And how do you lose without completely coming unglued? These are lessons in life that we want to convey to students. This is part of what we do here and all the other educations that we do. We want them to be able to read and write, add, all of those different things. But we want people to grow up and to be good community individuals that know how to deal with other people, how to work hard, and how to succeed. I believe that the rule that we are repealing undermines those lessons. As such, I urge passage. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Debate on the bill has been closed. The question before the House is, shall the bill pass? Those in favor of passage of the bill will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no. The clerk will prepare the machine. Has every member voted? If so, the clerk will close the machine and ascertain the result on that question. There are 78 ayes, 19 nays, and 2 members absent. A majority of the members having voted in the affirmative, the chair declares the bill passed. The clerk will please report the title.
House Bill 4425.
Are there title amendments? If not, the title as read by the clerk will be and remain the title of the bill. Gentleman the first.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move the bill become effective July 1st, 2027.
Gentleman the first moves that the bill take effect July 1st, 2027. The question before the House is on adoption of the motion. Those in favor of adoption of the motion, for what purpose does Gentleman 37 seek recognition of Gearhart?
Yes, Mr. Speaker, is this a debatable motion?
It is a debatable motion. Gentleman is recognized.
Ladies and gentlemen, the motion before us pushes the change of this off a year, if I'm not mistaken. I think that this is a problem now. And I believe the passage of this legislation and the time for it to become law creates plenty of time for anyone that is wishing to make considerations to do something prior to do it. I believe that this ought to be available and effective for the 2026-2027 school year. As such, I would urge rejection of the gentleman's motion.
Gentleman from the 99th, Doug Clark's recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm also going to urge rejection of the motion to have this considered on July 1, 2027. I'll give you a couple reasons why. So when I was on Education Committee, we had this bill come through us. I voted against it in Education Committee at that point. But one of the things that we put in it was the start of the transfer process. So when you finish middle school, you have from June 15th is when the start of the transfer process starts. Same thing when you're in high school. If you're going to make that first initial transfer, it's starting in June 15th. So if we make this start date July 1st of 2027, technically you could have 2 full seasons where you can't make these transfers. So I urge rejection of the motion of the start date.
Gentleman from the 16th, Doug Parsons is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I also stand to urge rejection of this amendment. It makes no sense. We have a problem now. We have an opportunity to fix it quicker, and I agree with the gentleman from the 37th. I urge rejection of this amendment.
Gentleman from the 64th, Doug Burkhammer.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm going to rise in support of the gentleman's amendment. I think we are injecting a lot of uncertainty right now into our communities, into our families, into our schools. And I think this builds a nice runway. There are no rules. We've heard today about we're going to collaborate on these rules. The gentleman from Cabell even mentioned, and I think this gives us ample opportunity to establish those rules, to give our input, and bring some stability to our families and to our student athletes. I urge support. Thank you.
Gentleman from the 65th, Doug Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise in support of the Majority Leader's motion. I think that it puts it in line with July 1st as the beginning of the school year officially, and I think it's a great motion. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Gentleman from the 14th, Doug Fogan.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I too support the motion. We heard a lot of testimony, heard a lot of ideas, heard from the gentleman over here about a possible task force. Sometimes if you place a lot of urgency on something, people can get it wrong. But if you give them a little time to work, they might come up with a better solution. So I feel like giving a little more time would be a better solution. Thank you.
Gentleman from the 67th, Doug Coop Gonzalez.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. For sure and for certain, it's always good not to rush things. So for that reason, I support the Majority Leader's motion.
Gentleman from the 54th, Doug Pushkin.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I just wanted to remind the body, but what we just passed was a repeal of a directive to the WVSSAC. If it goes into effect tomorrow, it doesn't change anything until they take action. So it's not rushing anything. So I would urge rejection as well.
Gentleman from the 82nd, Doug McCormick.
Thank you, thank you, Mr. Speaker. I did not speak on the bill, but I think we were doing the right thing here, and I want to agree with my friend from Mercer County. This repeal is taking the rule back to what it was. There's nothing to study. It's going back the way that it was. I think the quicker this is done, the better. And the quicker we get things, this bill enacted, the better. So I would urge rejection of the amendment. Thank you.
Gentleman from the 60th, Doug Farrell.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I also rise in objection, object to the motion made. I think, as we had clarified before, the school administrators are going to be meeting here at the end of this month, 1st of April, to sit down and look at any policy that may need to be changed going forward. But if not, the rules are already set in place. There's nothing to be confused about. We've got a full, all the way, we've got March, April, May, June, July, heading into August before fall sports even pick up. Plenty of time for anybody to get their house in order to get set for this. All we're going to do is prolong the misery and the suffering that some of these teams and small schools and so forth are, that we mentioned here in anecdotal cases. So I rise in opposition to the motion.
Is there further debate on the motion that the bill be made effective July 1st, 2027? Lady from the 52nd, Doug Howell is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. There's a lot of discussion here, and I did not speak to the bill either, but
A lot of us forget that coaches do not have to play that athlete that transfers. The other thing is that star athlete, they do not have to play at their home school if they choose not to, if that transfer is not allowed. I do support this, so I will be pressing red, or green, I'm sorry.
Is there further debate on the motion? Gentleman from the 37th, close debate on the motion. Gentleman to debate the motion.
Yes.
Gentleman 37th.
Yes, not debate, just to clarify, Mr. Speaker, for the body, since we've had a lot of conversation. A yes vote on the majority leader's motion would mean that this bill would not become effective until July 1 of next year, July 1, 2027. A no vote would mean that this would become effective in the normal process.
Gentleman is correct.
Thank you, Mr.
Gentleman is correct. Is there further debate on the bill or on the motion? Is there further debate on the motion that the bill take effect July 1st, 2027? It is a 2/3 vote requirement. A roll call is the default. Is there further debate? If not, the question is, shall the bill be made effective July 1st, 2027? Those in favor of the motion will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no. The clerk will prepare the machine. Has every member voted? If so, the clerk will close the machine and ascertain the result. On that question, there were 37 ayes, 59 nays, and 3 members absent. Less than 2/3 in the affirmative. The chair declares the motion lost. Clerk will please communicate the action of the House to the Senate. Next bill on third reading.
Committee substitute for House Bill 4784, extending the qualified opportunity zones until July 1, 2032.
This bill was advanced to third reading with the right to amend. Are there amendments to the bill?
Delegate Hornbuckle moves to amend the committee substitute for the committee substitute. This is HFA Hornbuckle 3-3.
Are there objections to having the amendment explained in lieu of having it read? If not, Chair will recognize the sponsor, the gentleman from the 25th, to explain the amendment.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Currently, the governor, via federal statute, nominates 25% of the total opportunity zones. What my amendment would do is it would incorporate us. It would simply have him to, or she in the future, to consultate with us, the people that are in that respective district. I think that we know our districts better than anyone, and again, it would just allow for that opportunity. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I reserve the right to close.
The question now is on the amendment as explained by the sponsor. Is there debate on the amendment? Gentleman from the 72nd, Delegate Riley, is recognized on the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, I appreciate the gentleman from the 25th Amendment. I feel that the amendment does not meet the intent of the federal code. The federal code specifically designates that the chief executive is to designate those areas. It makes no reference to, nor does it make a reference of consultation with the legislature, of which it could have done. And for those reasons, Mr. Speaker, I urge rejection.
Question again is on the amendment as explained by the sponsor and reported by the clerk. Is there debate? Gentleman from the 25th to close debate on the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. To my good friend from the 72nd, it's only consult, not control, and so I respectfully disagree with your assessment. This would, again, empower you all who were elected by your district. Nobody knows your respective district better than you. That's why you were put here. And I would also argue that there's a lot of people in this body that would like to have a lot of say in what that office does. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Question is on adoption of the amendment. Those in favor of adoption of the amendment will please say aye. Aye. Those opposed will please say no. No. Noes appear to have it. And noes have it. Chair declares the amendment lost. Are there other amendments to the bill? If not, the clerk will please read the bill a third time.
Committee substitute for House Bill 4784, extending the qualified opportunity zones until July 1, 2032.
The question before the House is, shall the bill pass? Are there objections to having this bill explained in lieu of having the bill read? If not, gentleman from the 72nd to explain the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This bill would extend the tax deduction for qualified opportunity zone businesses, which had expired in 2024, and to clarify that the eligible and businesses must meet the conditions of the federal law that created the Qualified Opportunity Zone Business Program. I urge passage.
The question again is, shall the bill pass? Is there debate on the bill? If not, then those in favor of passage of the bill will please vote aye. Those opposed will please vote no. The clerk will prepare the machine. Has every member voted? Gentleman from the 66th Delegate Kyle, your vote's not registered. Gentleman from the 82nd Delegate McCormick, your vote's not registered. Clerk will please close the machine and ascertain the result. On that question, there were 90 ayes, 2 nays, and 7 members absent. A majority of the members having voted in the affirmative, the chair declares the bill passed. The clerk will please report the title.
Committee substitute for House Bill 4784.
Are there title amendments? If not, the title as read by the clerk will be and remain the title of the bill. The clerk will please communicate the action of the House to the Senate. Next bill on third reading.
Committee substitute for House Bill 4793, creating the Barber Apprentice Program.
The question before the House is, shall the bill pass? Are there objections to having this bill explained in lieu of having the bill read? If not, gentleman from the 68th, Delegate Phillips, to explain the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The purpose of the committee substitute for House Bill 4793 is to revise certain provisions pertaining to licenses and professions regulated by the West Virginia Board of Barbers and Cosmetologists. The bill makes the following substantive changes. First, it lowers the age of licensure for board-regulated professions, except for waxing specialists, from 18 to 16 years of age. Second, it expands the type of apprenticeships that the board may offer. Currently, the board has only established apprenticeship programs for barbers and cosmetologists. This bill permits the board to develop apprenticeships for estheticians, nail technicians, and hairstylists as well. Third, it lowers the minimum age to receive such an apprenticeship from 16 to 14 years of age. In order to comply with federal child labor laws, any such apprenticeship would have to be administered as part of the Federal Work Experience and Career Exploration Program, or WECEP, which is designed specifically for 14 and 15-year-olds and which permits variances from federal laws regulating which professions 14 and 15-year-olds are permitted to perform. Because the Department of Education is the only state entity that can apply for WECEP participation, the bill directs the department to assist the board in developing and administering any such apprenticeship program, but such assistance is limited to actions necessary to receive the requisite federal WECEP authorization. Fourth, the bill eliminates multiple vague good character requirements. I urge passage.
Question now before the House is, shall the bill pass? Is there debate on the bill? If not, those in favor of passage of the bill will please vote aye. Those opposed will please vote no. The clerk will prepare the machine. Has every member voted? If so, the clerk will please close the machine and ascertain the result on that question. We had 91 ayes, 2 nays, and 6 members absent. A majority of the members having voted in the affirmative, the chair declares the bill passed. The clerk will please report the title.
Committee substitute for House Bill 4793.
Are there title amendments? If not, the title as read by the clerk will be and remain the title of the bill. The clerk will please communicate the action of the House to the Senate. Next bill on third reading.
Committee substitute for House Bill 4869, establish narrow, clearly bounded, guaranteed issue rights for Medicaid supplement policies in West Virginia.
The question before the House is, shall the bill pass? Are there objections to having the bill explained in lieu of having the bill read? If not, gentleman from the 26th, Delegate Rohrbach, to explain the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This bill would create a new article of code to provide a guaranteed issue period once every 2 years to a person who is enrolled in a Medicare supplemental policy issued in this state to replace that policy, and to provide a guaranteed issue right to a person who loses eligibility for medical assistance under Medicaid when turning 65 years of age to purchase a Medicare supplemental policy. That's a summary of the bill, Mr. Speaker, and I urge passage.
Question now before the House is, shall the bill pass? Is there debate on the bill? Gentleman from the 36th, Delegate Green, is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This is a consumer protection bill, friends, for our seniors. Seniors on fixed incomes who are watching their health insurance premium climb every single year and have absolutely no way to do anything about it. There are stories from agents that I've talked to where some seniors have come in, they are having to make decisions on what to pay for, whether they're insurance or other essentials. This bill helps that significantly. Before I get into it, I would just like to explain for the body, for those who are not familiar with exactly how Medicare supplement works. It's a little bit different than what most of us are used to. When a person turns 65 and goes on to Medicare, original Medicare does not cover everything. There are gaps, copays, deductibles, and things that Medicare doesn't pick up. So a significant number of seniors buy what is called a Medicare supplement plan, or also referred to as a Medigap plan, to fill those gaps. About 85,000 West Virginians currently have a Medicare supplement plan. The one thing is that when you turn 65, you get a one-time window to sign up for one of those plans. And during that window, insurance companies must take you, no matter what health conditions you have, no questions asked. But once that window closes, the protection is gone. From that point on, for the most part, if you try to switch to a different plan or a different company, the insurer can look at your full medical history, and if you have diabetes, heart disease, COPD, pretty much any kind of health history, they can deny you or they can charge you more depending upon the conditions that you have. So when you pick a plan, when you turn 65, you are essentially locked into it for life, especially if you have health concerns. And when the premiums start going up, you really have no place to turn under our current law. Here in West Virginia, these plans start somewhere between $70 to $120 a month, but these premiums go up somewhere between 6 to 10% every year on the annual increase. But in addition to that, you also have a birthday increase, and some plans can go up as high as 20% or more in a year. So that $120 that you start with at 65, by the time you're 75, you could be up to $250 or more. In your 80s, you could be $350 or $400 a month. And on a fixed income, that can be an issue for seniors. One of the situations that this bill does, as the gentleman from the 26 already mentioned, is it creates what is commonly called in the industry a birthday rule. 14 other states already have enacted some version of this birthday rule, including our neighbors in Kentucky and Virginia. With the birthday rule, once a year, during a 60-day window around your birthday, you have the right to shop for a better rate. There is a caveat in the bill that you have to have your plan in place for at least 2 years to be able to reduce churn. Once you've had your plan for 2 years, you can move to a plan with equal or lesser benefits, and you can't use your birthday to upgrade your coverage, but it must be the same or lesser. And it has to also be within either the same company that you're using or an affiliated company. This is not a wide open door. We actually talked to many of the different companies. We worked with the Insurance Commissioner's Office before we put this bill in place to make sure that our premiums overall would not rise significantly. And this has been a joint effort between us, the insurance companies, and the Insurance Commissioner's Office. Would like to also mention just briefly a little bit of understanding on what the second part does. So if a senior, and this happens very rarely, but in a few times a year, if a senior is actually on a dual eligible plan, which is Medicaid and Medicare eligible, if they would actually happen to have an increase in income, and this often happens with widows where a black lung benefit could be awarded after their husband's passed away or some instance like that. But if there's a situation where a person would lose the eligibility for Medicaid, currently right now they cannot get a guarantee issue period to be able to get into a Medicare gap plan. And this would also allow them to do that. So it's just a wonderful thing for our seniors. We've actually been getting a lot of positive for this, and we appreciate everyone's support for the bill.
Is there further debate on the bill? Lady from the 56th, Leggett Young, is recognized on the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Will the gentleman yield just for a quick question?
Sure.
Thank you. You keep saying seniors, but I want to make sure that it also impacts folks that are under 65 but have like ALS or something like that that also use Medigap policies.
So at this point in time, there is very little opportunities for for people under 65 to get onto Medicare gap policies.
Right.
They actually get on Medicare supplement policies. There are some, and I'm not trying to get into the weeds, but if you had a Highmark, for instance, from your work or a previous position, then you get into disability, you could actually get onto a Highmark supplement plan. But that's not particularly what this is for. This is specifically for seniors, and the bill specifically says that you have to be over 65 eligible for that.
So it doesn't really affect them good, bad, otherwise?
Correct.
Thanks.
Yes.
Is there further debate on the bill? Gentlemen, the 26 closed debate on the bill. If not, those in favor of passage of the bill will please vote aye. Those opposed will please vote no. The clerk will prepare the machine. Has every member voted? If so, the clerk will please close the machine and ascertain the result on that question. There were 90 ayes, 1 nay, and 8 members absent. A majority of the members having voted in the affirmative, the chair declares the bill passed. The clerk will please report the title.
Committee substitute for House Bill 4869.
Are there title amendments? If not, the title as read by the clerk will be and remain the title of the bill. The clerk will please communicate the action of the House to the Senate. Next bill on third reading.
Committee substitute for House Bill 5063 to permit the county commission to appoint a county commissioner to a convention and visitors bureau as a voting member.
The question before the House is, shall the bill pass? Are there objections to having the bill explained in lieu of having the bill read? No objections are heard. Gentleman from the 89th, Edgar Cannon to explain the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The committee substitute for 5063 amends 7-18-13A of the code to ensure that county commissions cannot be prohibited from appointing a member of the county commission to a county CVB. In the case of a multi-county CVB, a county commissioner as a voting member from each commission represented on the CVB, as a safeguard to ensure that a commissioner's absence cannot impede a CVB's meeting agenda. The committee substitute added a proviso that makes clear that such an absence will not be considered for suggesting the absence of a quorum. This bill ensures that elected county representatives will always have the ability to have at least some fiscal oversight over the county tax revenue that is by code transferred directly to CVBs, which are not elected bodies. That is an explanation of the bill, Mr. Speaker, and I'd request to speak the bill, if I may.
Question before the House is, shall the bill pass? Gentleman is recognized.
I wanted to express my appreciation for the committee process and for the thoughtful changes incorporated into the committee substitute. The dialogue has been productive, but there was some concerns raised by a very small group, and I do believe that those concerns are worth mentioning for the benefit of the body and understanding the bill. It has been stated that many convention and visitors bureaus across West Virginia already have county commissioners serving on their boards. That is correct. In many counties, commissioners are already engaged. However, not all of those positions are voting positions. In some instances, they are ex officio members, and commissioners serve in those capacities without a vote. If so many CVBs already see the value in involving commissioners in their work, then the logical question becomes, how could it be anything other than beneficial to clarify in statute that a county commission may appoint one commissioner as a voting member? This bill simply provides consistency and clarity. It does not mandate participation, it authorizes it. Another concern raised was related to the meeting attendance, specifically what happens if a commissioner misses meetings. The bill addresses this very clearly and directly. It states that the absence of a commissioner shall not be counted against the quorum. And in other words, a commissioner's absence cannot paralyze the board's ability to conduct business. The presence or absence of that commissioner does not jeopardize the function of the CVB, which is not currently the case for the instances in which they've used their bylaws to take one of the at-large seats and appoint a commissioner to it. Additionally, concerns were raised about the permissive nature of the language. Respectfully, that concern does not align with how county government operates. Nearly every board, authority, commission, or committee on which a county commissioner serves is permissive in nature. Assignments are made by the full county commission, committee assignments, that is. Commissioners serve at the pleasure of the full commission. The only mandated meetings that a commissioner must attend according to current law is at least 4 governing body county commission meetings per year. So the permissivity concern, it's worth mentioning, but I believe it's worth clearing up the confusion as well. If a commissioner neglects his or her duties, the commission has the authority to remove that assignment. Beyond that, there are broader accountability mechanisms in place, including action by the prosecutor or by petition of the people. The structure of the county government already provides safeguards against inaction, or as I say, lazy commissioners. This bill does not create a new accountability problem. It operates within an existing and well-established governance framework. Finally, I've personally spoken with several CVB members who took this question back to their respective boards. The feedback has been very consistent. The majority are neutral, and many believe it can only strengthen tourism efforts to involve county executives more directly. Tourism is one of the fastest growing sectors of West Virginia and its economy. Coordination between those responsible for allocating hotel occupancy tax revenues and those charged with promoting tourism is not a conflict. It is good governance. The legislation does not change funding formulas It does not interfere with CVB autonomy. It does not impose mandates. It simply permits local elected officials, if the county commission so chooses, to simply appoint a voting commissioner to the seat and have a seat at the table where tourism policy and hotel occupancy tax expenditures are discussed. At its core, this bill strengthens communication, accountability, partnership between county government and one of our most important economic development engines. I respectfully ask for your support and be happy to take any questions.
Gentleman from the 65th, Douglas Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Will the gentleman yield for a question?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir. I was wondering, so if a city has a CVB, this allows for the county commission to have a member on the city CVB?
No, sir. This just addresses county CVBs
CVBs.
and multi-county CVBs.
Okay. But so if a city has one, then it does not apply to them?
No, this does not give a commissioner the right to sit on a municipal CVB, just county CVBs.
Okay. I'm just a little confused because the bill says no county commission of a county in which a convention and visitor bureau is located. So if a city is inside of a county, do you see how I'm looking at that, or?
I do see what you're saying. I believe that there are instances where there are municipal CVBs and county CVBs within a county. And in a lot of situations, they're just a county CVB. Council, did you have anything to add to that? I believe it makes specific reference to county CVB. So if you'll see on line 60, it pretty explicitly states County Convention and Visitors Bureau as it pertains to a voting member.
I apologize. Thank you.
Yes,
Thank you
sir.
for yielding. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
From the 99th, Douglas Clark.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Colleagues, I want to start off, I urge you, be cautious. I've been here 6 years. I've seen what happens when we begin legislation with permissive language. Let's allow it. What happens in the future? It didn't work. Now we got to make it mandatory. Give you a little bit of history. You know, we have 40 accredited CVBs in the state of West Virginia. 29 of those are what we consider county-wide CVBs. That means that they're offices in the county, not in a municipality. Of those 29, 26 already do this in their bylaws. They already do this in their bylaws. They already allow them. Now we want to put it in code that they cannot refuse. Well, we have 3 that the county commissioners don't want to be on. You know, the gentleman from the 65th asked, what about the municipality CVBs? Because it says, shall not limit a CVB within a county. Well, technically you could say a municipal CVB is in a county. Again, caution. Transparency was brought up, not only in the debate, but in conversations. CVBs have some of the most restrictive transparency in their spending of their money. First, they're required, 40% of their money they collect has to be used for salaries and payroll. 40% of their money has to be used for marketing for their area. 20% has to be used for operationals, rent, all that. They have 90 days from the close of their books, whether it's January or June, to send their budget, their report, to the auditor's office, to Joint Committee on Government and Finance, and to the state CVB agency. Every 3 years, they have to go through an accreditation process. Every dollar spent is accounted for. They also have to send their report to their county commission. So their county commission has to see this. All this stuff is already happening. The moment that we make this permissive and we add this in here, we're going to be back here 2 years from now saying we want to make it mandatory. Now we're changing the whole process of how these CVBs operate. In the legislation, during the process of going through this, through GovOrg, I tried to have an amendment put in that these folks that are coming on and being appointed on, they had to adhere to the bylaws of the CVB. Oh, that was adamantly argued against. No, an elected official should never have to adhere to the bylaws. They're elected by 30,000 people, 20,000 people, 58,000 people. They should never adhere to the bylaws. Well, they don't have to attend. They don't have to attend because we gave them the right not to attend. What happens if we don't attend? Well, we have laws, rules. You know, we get in trouble. We can be removed. We had that happen in my county just a few years ago. We had 2 county commissioners removed from office because they didn't show up. Last year we had a bill, myself and a gentleman from the 37th had a lot of fun with it. It was called a safety tax. It dealt with amusement tax. We never passed it out of the House. However, do you think we could see the amusement tax come back in? Because we then add the county commissioners 2 years down the road, maybe a year down the road. Think about that. Be cautious with what we're doing. It seems simple. It's permissive, let it go. What happens later? What happens later? Your CVBs are spending tremendous amount of money, effort in marketing your area and making your process better. Let's not put any additional restrictions on them, whether it's permissive or whether it's guaranteed. I urge a no vote on this. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Gentleman the first, Second McGeehan.
Gotta hit that button, I guess. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise in support of this bill. I think the gentleman from the, can't read that, 89th has a very good bill. We're just putting elected officials that the people elect on board these visitor centers to monitor finances, and the people can hold somebody accountable. One thing I do detest is when people stand up and have a predetermined sort of end and invent arguments after the fact. I'm not doing that. I think it's a simple bill. Why don't we just allow elected officials to sit on these boards that deal with a lot of tax money, so at least the people can hold someone accountable if they go wrong.
Is there further debate on the bill? Lady of the 19th, David Kraus is recognized on the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I just requested Rule 49. I'm a member of a CVB.
As a member of a CVB?
Yes.
Okay, it would be the ruling of the chair that the lady would belong to a class of greater than 5 individuals as a member of a CVB and is eligible to vote on the question. Clerk will please note the ruling in the journal. Gentleman the 36th, Douglas Green.
Same ruling, Mr. Speaker.
Are there other members who wish a ruling by the chair pursuant to House Rule 49? Okay, all members who wish a ruling by the chair pursuant to House Rule 49 as to your eligibility to vote on this question will please press yes or no. Clerk will please note those members who seek a ruling from the chair pursuant to House Rule 49 as to eligibility on this question. It is a ruling of the chair that all members in the House are entitled to vote as a member of a class of greater than 5 and therefore are eligible to vote on this bill. Is there further debate on passage of the bill? The question before the House is, shall the bill pass? The gentleman in the 89th wish to close debate on the bill. The gentleman is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I hear 26 out of the 29 are already doing this. It's really hard for me to see how solidifying this when so many already endorse the idea is such a big deal. And I'll be honest, even if there was only one that wasn't doing it, I would feel this is necessary. We are growing tourism at an increasing rate. We are injecting huge sums of our tax money involved in this. Excuse me. And this is just, I wrote all these things, and you can throw this out. The bottom line is this is a bureaucratic turf war from a small group, and that's what it is, and I want to call it out for what it is. Voting green is voting for what's right and more power to the people, one little vote solidified, and voting red is taking power from them and giving it to the bureaucrats. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Debate on the bill has been closed. The question before the House now is, shall the bill pass? Those in favor of passage of the bill will please vote aye. Those opposed will please vote no. The clerk will prepare the machine. Has every member voted? If so, the clerk will please close the machine and ascertain the result on that question. There were 84 ayes, 8 nays, 7 members absent. A majority of the members having voted in the affirmative, the chair declares the bill passed. The clerk will please report the title.
Committee substitute for House Bill 5063.
Are there title amendments? If not, the title as read by the clerk will be and remain the title of the bill. The clerk will please communicate the action of the House to the Senate. Next bill on third reading.
Committee substitute for House Bill 5089, providing for verified mastery of content standards for transcripts when a student enrolls or re-enrolls in a public school in this state.
This bill was advanced to third reading with an amendment pending yesterday. The clerk will please report the amendment.
Delegate Fluharty moves to amend the committee substitute. This is HFA Fluharty 3-2.
Gentleman of the 5th, Delegate Fluharty, to explain the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This amendment passed twice in this chamber the last 2 years. It's known as Rayleigh's Law. And last night, it was strengthened in a bipartisan manner in a standalone bill that I hope we will actually get to vote on as a standalone bill with an up and down vote this week. So as such, Mr. Speaker, given that work of the committee last night in a bipartisan manner, I would ask for unanimous consent to withdraw my amendment.
Are there objections to having the amendment withdrawn? No objections are heard. The amendment will be withdrawn. Clerk will please read the bill a third time.
Committee substitute for House Bill 5089, providing for verified mastery of content standards for transcripts when a student enrolls or re-enrolls in a public school in this state.
The question before the House is, shall the bill pass? Are there objections to having the bill explained in lieu of having the bill read? If not, gentleman from the 38th, Delegate Ellington, to explain the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The bill deals with public schools recording the class, grade, and source on the student's public school transcript upon enrollment and re-enrollment. It also provides for a report to LOCIA. That's the bill, Mr. Speaker, and I urge passage.
The question before the House is, shall the bill pass? Is there debate on the bill? If not, those in favor of passage of the bill will please vote aye. Those opposed will please vote no. The clerk will prepare the machine. Has every member voted? If so, the clerk will please close the machine and ascertain the result on that question. We had 87 ayes, 4 nays, and 8 members absent. A majority of the members having voted in the affirmative, the chair declares the bill passed. The clerk will please report the title.
Committee substitute for House Bill 5089.
Are there title amendments? If not, the title as read by the clerk will be and remain the title of the bill. The clerk will please communicate the action of the House to the Senate. Next bill on third reading.
House Bill 5106, relating to the Greater Huntington Park and Recreation District.
The question before the House is, shall the bill pass? Are there objections to having the bill explained in lieu of having the bill read? If not, gentleman from the 26th, Delegate Rohrbach, to explain the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This bill would amend provisions of the local act creating the Greater Huntington Park and Recreation District. The bill would authorize, instead of requiring, the Cabell County Board of Education provide funds to the district through special and excess levies. The purpose of this bill is to get into compliance with a court ruling that was made regarding a lawsuit that was adjudicated all the way to the State Supreme Court of Appeals to take out the fact that the school board had to do this. So we're just making this permissive. They are currently doing it, but it's under a permissive instead of a mandatory basis that this bill seeks to remedy. Thank you, and I urge passage.
The question now before the House is, shall the bill pass? Is there debate on the bill? If not, those in favor of passage of the bill will please vote aye. Those opposed will please vote no. The clerk will prepare the machine. Has every member voted? If so, the clerk will please close the machine and ascertain the result on that question. We had 91 ayes, 0 nays, and 8 members absent. Majority of members having voted in the affirmative, the chair declares the bill passed. The clerk will please report the title.
House Bill 5106.
Are there title amendments? If not, the title as read by the clerk will be and remain the title of the bill. The clerk will please communicate the action of the House to the Senate. Next bill on third reading.
Committee substitute for House Bill 5163 relating to exempting child care programs operated by a county board of education exclusively for the children of its employees from certain licensing requirements.
The question before the House is, shall the bill pass? Are there objections to having the bill explained in lieu of having the bill read? If not, Gentleman 93rd Douglas Hornby to explain the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Committee substitute for House Bill 5163 authorizes county boards to operate child care programs for employees and students, with the State Board of Education responsible for establishing the governing rules. That is the summary of the bill. I urge passage.
Question before the House is, shall the bill pass, or is there debate on the bill? Is there debate on the bill? If not, those in favor of passage of the bill will please vote aye. Those opposed will please vote no. The clerk will prepare the machine. Has every member voted? If so, the clerk will please close the machine and ascertain the result on that question. We had 91 ayes, 2 nays, and 6 members absent. A majority of the members having voted in the affirmative, the chair declares the bill passed. The clerk will please report the title.
Committee substitute for House Bill 5163.
Are there title amendments? If not, the title as read by the clerk will be and remain the title of the bill. The clerk will please communicate the action of the House to the Senate. Next bill on third reading.
Committee substitute for House Bill 5319, camping ban on certain public property.
The question before the House, shall the bill pass? Are there objections to having the bill explained in lieu of having the bill read? If not, Gentleman the 78th Douglas Shirelli to explain the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The committee substitute for 5319 creates new prohibitions for camping or storing personal property in public areas, provides for graduated penalties, including a warning for a first offense, provides that notice may be given to a person in violation of alternative shelters, and provides exceptions for certain forms of lawful camping. That is the committee substitute, Mr. Speaker, and I urge passage.
The question before the House is, shall the bill pass? Is there debate on the bill? Gentleman the 23rd Douglas Worrell is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I stand in opposition to this piece of legislation today, and I've heard from many of you. I understand that homelessness is an issue in your particular areas. I would say that it also happens in rural areas as well as urban areas. And I understand that people have no place to go. And it's a problem. And I understand the bill here addresses, if you look at the first violation, that they're given a written warning and that they are provided with information about resources to obtain assistance in seeking alternate shelter. What the bill also does is say that every day is a separate offense. So right there on day 2, you're guilty of a misdemeanor with a fine of no more than $200 if convicted and fined. As well, the third violation of within 12 months of up to a $500 fine and 30 days in jail. And I have an issue with this because where do they go? You might give them a list of alternate seeking shelter. It says if possible, though. It might not be in the same county they live in, might not be in the same area that they live in. They can't be transported. But the other issue is, what is $200 to an individual who's homeless? It might as well be $2 million. How can they afford that? It also, what about somebody who's homeless at the current time but trying to turn their lives around, and now they're going to be guilty of a misdemeanor? That affects employment opportunities as well. It affects maybe seeking shelter somewhere else if they've been guilty of a misdemeanor, if they're convicted of a misdemeanor. And so I look at the issues that we have here. If it's as large of a problem in your areas is what I'm hearing, while this bill doesn't have a fiscal note on it, be clear it will have a fiscal impact on Department of Corrections. It will have an impact on the court system. It'll have an impact on our sheriffs and our law enforcement in our local areas. So I can't support that. I can't support what we're trying to do here. I will support and commit to working on ways to improve our homeless populations. There are multiple studies done that show that by providing housing for individuals, you actually save a lot of money, not only in corrections, but also in our hospitals, as there are reduced ER visits, reduced time in hospital systems through that nature. I'm committed to working on finding ways to improve that system as well, because right now I think West Virginia is over $80,000 a year on inmates is what we spend on inmates when you take into medical care, food and everything. So I would submit that we could probably do that for less than $80,000 per person for a homeless individual to help them turn their lives around and not go into corrections. I think there's a better way to advocate and work on our homeless population throughout the state. I don't believe that this bill is doing that. I don't believe that making people who are down in their luck, trying to turn their lives around, being fined and be guilty of misdemeanors, I don't believe that's the right way to go about this. And once again, I'm committed to working with any of you all to try to improve this system going forward and finding ways to help our homeless population and not trying to criminalize our homeless population. So I urge rejection of the bill. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Delegate from the 79th, Delegate Hansen.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This is an issue that should be handled at the local level. This is a matter of local control, how to address homeless populations in our cities. And when I think about what's happened in the city of Morgantown, that's a good example of how the local community is addressing this issue. There's so many people in my community who are volunteering, serving on boards of directors, donating money, donating time, writing grants to provide resources to keep our homeless shelters open and to feed people who need food. There's a lot of people working on that issue. And not only that, but our city council in Morgantown passed an ordinance that's very similar to the one before you today. It's a local issue. Our local city council addressed it. And it actually got a little messier than that because people were upset at our city council for passing that ordinance and collected enough signatures to try to repeal that ordinance. It eventually was put on the ballot last year, and the residents of Morgantown got to vote on it, and they upheld the city council's decision to have a camping ban, similar to the one before us today. So whether you like a camping ban or dislike a camping ban, I hope you would agree that this is something that our city councils and our county commissions can take care of. Hope you would agree that there's no compelling reason why every city in this state needs to have the exact same ban. Why can't the city of Morgantown, with our nonprofits, with our homeless shelters, with our police department, design a solution that works best for us? Now, in addition to the fact that this should be a local matter, I disagree with the policy. I didn't agree with the camping ban in Morgantown. I disagreed with the results of the election, the referendum on it. But unlike some people, I respect the results of our elections, and we have to move forward with those and accept the votes of the people. Now, in terms of the policy itself, this type of approach criminalizes homelessness. People that are homeless are going to be subjected to fines and possible jail time. And I don't think criminalizing homelessness is the right approach. I don't think the right approach is putting people in jail because they've fallen on hard times. People in this situation are not just those with mental health problems. It's people in this situation are not just those with substance use problems. We heard testimony in committee from an upstanding member of the community, a business owner who was doing just fine until he got a cancer diagnosis. He was diagnosed with cancer, and because our health insurance situation in this country is not as good as it could be, he had to spend all his life savings to survive cancer and ended up on the streets. And his testimony before us in committee was that if he was told by a police officer that he had a large fine or was facing possible jail sentence, that he would seriously have considered suicide. And I take something like that seriously because I think we need to have a policy that is not just based in local control, but is based on compassion and empathy for people that have fallen on hard times. So I will be voting no, because I do not think we should be criminalizing homelessness and putting people in jail who have fallen on hard times. I think there are other better approaches to this issue.
Gentleman from the 99th, Doug Clark.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Colleagues, this is a record for me, standing up 4 times in the same floor session. I don't normally do this, but would the sponsor yield?
Yes.
Gentleman does yield.
So we had this bill last year, correct?
Yes.
And there was one person that voted no on this bill, right?
There were 9 people that voted no.
9, okay. I thought it was just one. I forgot that one, but I was one of the ones that voted no on it.
Correct.
And one of the reasons why I brought it up was because of the tourism factor, correct?
Yes.
So when you have in here, camping, is there a minimum time that someone could be deemed camping? Hour, 2 hours, 24 hours, 3 days? Is there a time?
No, not in this bill.
Okay, so in my county, we have Harper's Ferry, and it has the Appalachian Trail. We get a lot of hikers that are hiking the Appalachian Trail. If they come into the municipality with their backpacks and they lay their backpacks on a bench and go into a store, is that considered leaving of personal property?
No, I don't think that would meet the threshold necessary to actually enforce this.
Okay. What if they lay down and take a nap on their backpack?
I think that it would be at the discretion of the officer to determine whether or not that person is actually illicitly camping somewhere or they're just taking a nap on a bench.
Okay. What if they put at one of the little cover tents over there and sleep the night out? Is that camping?
I would call that camping, yes.
Okay. Now, they're not homeless, and I understand the concept of the bill, and I brought up the caution of this last year. I understand the concept of it, but that could be camping. Let's go with some of our ATV trails. You're out on the ATV trail, and a nasty storm comes along. And you've been with me on one of these trips, so you know there's no windshield, and you were with me when we got pelted for 6 miles trying to drive through the rain, correct?
Correct.
And I decide to pull over and put a cover over my side-by-side, and I fall asleep, and I'm in the municipality. I'm in trouble, right?
No, not according to this.
Not according to this.
No.
But I fall asleep and I stay, I'm in a tent over my side-by-side.
Correct. So if you look at the last line on page 76, it says persons lodging or residing overnight in motor vehicles that are registered, insured, and located in a place where it may lawfully be. They would be exempted from that.
Okay, so that's a good point. Side-by-sides, most of them are not registered. You don't have to register a side-by-side. So I could be in trouble here. Not only am I in trouble for camping on the trail, because you can't do that on Hatfield McCoy Trail anyway, but now I'm in the municipality, I'm in trouble here, right?
It would be at the discretion of the officer that would be issuing a warning.
All right. Thank you for yielding, sir. Folks, I, just like I brought up last year, I understand the intent of this bill. You know, I get it. The gentleman from the 23rd brought up these fines to folks. This is their last $200. This could be the reason that they are able to, put a deposit on an apartment, and we're going to fine them because they're waiting one more day. When you look at tourism, we have opportunities here where it could be misconstrued and they could get in trouble, and all they are is they're walking the Appalachian Trail. They were out in a side-by-side, and there was 9 of you all with us on that 6-mile trip through a storm, and it hurt. And all I did was pull it over. I was in a municipality. I pulled over, put a cover over my side-by-side, and now I'm getting fined. So I'm going to be voting no on it, and I hope you all join me on this too. Thank you.
From the 80th, Eckert Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Would my friend yield for one more question?
Of course.
Thank you very much. So back home, there is a radio DJ that does an annual fundraiser for animal shelters, camping for canines. And she camps out, and to my knowledge, it's always been in a municipality. With her camping out in a public setting like that, would she be breaking the law?
No, I don't believe so.
Okay. And can you guide me a little bit why she wouldn't be?
Sure. So not only would I think that it is at the discretion of the officer that would be issuing the actual warning or citation, I think if you look at page, it's on the first page, line 9, when it talks about the definition of camp or camping means to pitch, erect, or occupy camp facilities or to use camp paraphernalia or both for the purposes of habitation as evidenced by the use of camp paraphernalia. I don't think that a radio promotion would qualify as setting up camp paraphernalia there for the purposes of habitation. I think that would fall out of what this bill is attempting to address.
Okay. Thank you, my friend. Appreciate it.
From the 57th, Eckert Lewis is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. While I understand the intent of the bill, I believe that it just makes the problem worse. As the chairman of health, he articulated, I think these investments could go to a better purpose. We need to make sure that we are attempting to provide housing, that we are attempting to fund outreach programs like the CARE team here in Charleston, that not only are we doing those things, but we're also caring for people on a human level. Because when we talk about these issues, a lot of these individuals, in addition to what the gentleman from the 79th said, a lot of them do have mental health issues. A lot of them do have substance use disorder. So we're just going to be punitive and fine them. It's just going to make the problem worse. So again, I understand the intent of what's going on, but I think there's a better pathology to dealing with homeless individuals in our cities. So for that reason, I will not be supporting the bill. Thank you.
From the 29th, Eckert Dillon.
The gentleman from the 78th, yield.
Sponsor, yield.
Yes.
Thank you. Do you find that oftentimes, or is there evidence to support that oftentimes in these types of situations, there's a lot of illicit or illegal activity taking place in these camps?
Yes.
Okay, could you maybe elaborate on the types of things happening in these types of camps?
Yeah, so one thing that happens, especially when there's large collections of people that are camping together on public property, typically a lot of the time they are homeless individuals, sometimes they're not. But these places more often than not turn into open air drug dens, there is prostitution, there is petty crime in the surrounding area that results because of that. So yes, these kinds of encampments do create a public health concern.
Okay, and I don't know, in Morgantown or in other counties around, municipalities around the state, is open air drug use and prostitution legal or?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay, so why don't we arrest them for that?
That would be a question for the officers that would be answering to whatever call or directive.
Okay, thank you. No further questions.
From the 5th, Eckert Fluharty is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise today in support of Wheeling, who enacted their own ban upon decisions made by City Council, the community that knows much better than we do here in Charleston what's good and what's best. We tend to, this session in particular, run a lot of legislation that we decide for communities what's best for them. And when this bill was running through Judiciary Committee, there's a gentleman here downtown. I live downtown for session. His name's Mark. He's homeless. And you'll find him at many of these establishments, sipping water, waiting for somebody to come talk to him. I talk to him all the time, buy him dinner many times while I'm down here. Mark, I consider a friend. So when this bill was going through, I said, hey, Mark, we got this bill about camping, and how would this impact you? you could be fined $200. And he laughs, as he always does, slick back hair, big gray mustache. He's like, man, I'll never have $200. I'll never have $200. That stuck with me. That hit me. And then I started going through the definitions here, and paraphernalia is required. So if Mark is just on the street by himself sleeping with nothing, he's not violating this law. But if Mark has the audacity to have a blanket to stay warm, to survive, then he's violating this law, because that is paraphernalia. I understand if we want to keep beds and cots and tents and things out of the streets, but to codify a blanket, that's not camping, that's surviving. I find it to be cruel. And because of that, I cannot support this legislation. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Gentleman from the 100th, right now is recognized.
Will the sponsor yield?
Sponsor yield.
Yes.
Is there anything in this bill that precludes working on homelessness or efforts to try and accommodate those individuals who are homeless?
No, sir.
Is there anything in this bill that precludes discretion on the part of any officer that may encounter individuals who are engaged in camping?
No, there's not.
So this is left open then to officers to look at the situation, attempt to determine what's going to be best in terms of both law enforcement and the needs of the individual, correct?
Yeah, that flexibility was intentional in the Judiciary Committee's creation of the committee substitute.
So the intent of this is to try and ensure that we're taking care of not only the individuals who are possibly in a homeless situation and need to be taken care of, but also the community around them. Is that correct?
Yes.
So, and that's part of what we're looking at, is whether or not this is going to impact property owners who are in the surrounding area, store owners, businesses that may have individuals who are engaged in these activities in front of their locations, and thus inhibiting their ability to do their business. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Lady from the 81st, Douglas Hamilton is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I stand in opposition to this bill. I agree with the health chair from Cabo in the fact that we have to ask ourselves, where do these people go? And along with what he was saying, I am one of those that I am in the community. I work on several organizations that during the winter we do have fundraisers to raise money to buy sleeping bags, because we don't want to wake up and find individuals dead because they didn't have anywhere to go. And when you look at the number of how many homeless you have versus how many beds that we have in a homeless shelter, the number of homeless far exceeds the availability that we have to house these individuals. So this type of legislation undermines the work of organizations. We asked organizations to step up, and we have. There are churches that feed every day to ensure, not the state, but churches who step up every day to ensure that our homeless have a hot meal. Churches that provide basic hygiene packets. I know my organization does it all the time. We supply food for our youth in school to ensure that they have something to eat. We supply basic hygiene packets. We have stepped up to try to combat, because we're living in a time where the cost of living is so high, they don't stand a chance. And the state's response to homelessness is to put them in jail, to further create a barrier for them to not only get on their feet, to succeed. We stand in here and we have debated about opportunity and about all of these things, but yet we present legislation that don't give our people a chance. It says that we say all the time we want people to come here and work, but if you fall on hard times, we won't support you. Our answer is jail. Now, I know that there are some bad actors. There are some that out there that deface property, and there is law, there is police to deal with that. But homelessness is an issue that is growing, that is directly related to the high cost of inflation that we want that we don't deal with. And I don't believe that legislation that puts them in jail is the answer. Communities have stepped up, organizations have stepped up, churches have stepped up. And I just don't believe that our response to homelessness as a state should be to put them in jail. I just really don't believe that. I know that if I fall on hard times, because a lot of times, truth be told, a lot of us could be, some of us, one paycheck away from experiencing devastation, one illness away from experiencing devastation. You want the response of your state that you have worked for, because if we think about it, we put a lot of bills in here that support veterans. A lot of our homeless are veterans. So what happens when we fall on hard times? Is our response to that, because this bill doesn't say, oh, you're just at a hard time one time versus the homeless we see many times. So if we're suffering devastation, do we want the response of our state to be, I'm going to put you in jail, or I'm going to fine you because you can't find a job or no one will hire you, instead of being able to provide resources and an avenue that will be able to bring our state to wholeness. I just don't see how this type of legislation can bring us to the wholeness that we're trying to work toward as a legislative body. And it's for that reason, Mr. Speaker, I stand in opposition to this legislation.
Gentleman from 55th, Douglas Akers.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Since the gentleman from the 5th brought up Mark here in Charleston, I want to talk about a few other folks here in the city of Charleston. I want to talk about Rochelle, Danny, and John. Rochelle is a lady who, a few years ago, was homeless here in Charleston, and there was another man who came here from California. He was a fugitive from justice. He was also homeless. And he got into an argument one day, no one really knows why, with a man who Rochelle had been spending time with. He found Rochelle and the other man sleeping on a porch here in Charleston. He poured gasoline all over Rochelle, and he set her on fire. I've seen the video of that. There was surveillance at a nearby home, and I actually saw him walk up to the porch on the video, pour the gasoline on Rochelle, throw a lighter or match on her, and then she ran off the porch, completely engulfed in flames, in the street, until she collapsed in the street, and then she died about a week or so later in a burn unit after doctors had slowly amputated some of her limbs trying to save her life. So Rochelle is someone who I think that we need to, the type of person who we would want to protect, the type of person who deserves and needs services. The other homeless individual, I'm not going to even refer to him as homeless. He just was a criminal vagrant. There's a distinction here. I think everyone in this room wants to help people who truly need it, who are truly simply homeless, people who, because they've had some housing issue, maybe they have a mental health issue, it could be substance abuse, but they're hurting no one else potentially except for themselves. They deserve and need help. I think everyone in this room agrees with that on both sides of the aisle. The separate element of people, the criminal element, prey upon the community at large, which usually winds up being other people on the streets, other homeless people. That could be someone like Danny. Danny's a gentleman who used to hang out at the public library across from my office for several years. I got to know him pretty well. He used to come in my office, and I would give Danny money sometimes for food. We'd sit and talk sometimes. Danny was a really smart guy. He would read the newspaper in the library, come over and talk about current events. He could tell you what was going on every single day, depending upon what the world or local events were. And Danny was talking to me one day, and he asked me for a little money. He didn't come begging ever. He would only occasionally ask for help. He usually just wanted to talk. And one day, Danny asked me for a little bit of help because someone had stolen his backpack. And again, Danny would not be guilty under this bill for camping just because he had a backpack, unless you think the police are so cruel that they would go out and try to warn or fine someone like Danny. If you think the mayors of our cities want the homeless who are truly just homeless to be harassed. But Danny told me that someone had stolen his backpack, and I said, sure, buddy, I'll help you out. What was in it? And he said, everything I owned. And everything Danny owned was in his backpack. And the person who stole his backpack was another criminal vagrant. We could call them homeless. I hate to say that, but it was someone else who was on the streets. So Danny was victimized by someone on the streets. And when I asked Danny who it was, he said, I don't know. It was just a new face here in town. It was someone from outside of Charleston he'd never seen before. Not long after that, a few months later, Danny's new backpack with everything he owned was stolen once again
by someone who he said was a new face, a younger person, someone in their 20s. I'll tell you a story about a guy named John who started a kitchen on the west side for the homeless, or anyone really who was down on their luck. Had it open for less than a year before a criminal element moved in and began terrorizing his staff so much that he could no longer provide for their safety, and he had to close the kitchen he opened primarily to feed the homeless. There's another place here in Charleston, a day shelter that several years ago had to close for several days because of vandalism by a criminal element of homeless who came in and were destroying the property, which meant the day shelter had to close and couldn't serve the homeless population. That same day center or day shelter also had a clothing facility where they gave out free clothing to people in need. That there were two people involved in some sort of criminal exchange. They set that building on fire and burned down the clothing facility that provided clothes for the homeless. So one of the important distinctions that gets lost in these debates is we have nice people who live on the streets. We have people like Mark who are easy to talk to and easygoing who aren't going to hurt anybody. They're the ones who get victimized by the criminal element, and that's what a bill like this is meant to stop. It's not to target people who are homeless. You know, I have more faith in our law enforcement to be able to make the distinction between those who actually need help, who are down their luck, and it's kind of insulting to me on their behalf to think that the police are just going to walk up and warn and then find someone who you can tell is simply just on the streets because they have nowhere else to go, but they're hurting no one. Versus someone who walks up with a can of gasoline, pours it on a woman who's asleep on a porch, and sets her on fire until she burns to death. And what we know is that if we have no rules or accountability whatsoever, then people get victimized in these situations, and it is usually the people who live on the streets who are victimized first. This bill doesn't victimize those who truly need help, because I have faith that our law enforcement, our local officials who are getting credit here today for knowing what's best for their communities, they're going to tell the mayors of these cities and towns, they're going to say, do not go out and harass the people who you know who live in the streets. Don't harass Mark. Don't harass Danny. Protect Mark and Danny from the criminal element, and this is a tool to do so. That's all this is. It's permissive, and if the local cities and towns have their own ordinances, this doesn't preempt them. They can enforce their own rules and regulations if they want. This is simply a tool for the communities, the counties, the cities and towns, unincorporated, incorporated, who may not have something like this in the books. They can use this as a tool in their toolbox to protect Rochelle, to protect Danny, to protect Mark. That's all this is. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I urge passage.
From the 65th, Doug Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Will the gentleman yield for a question?
Yes.
Thank you, sir. So I'm wondering, in your district, you have a piece of Morgantown, is that correct?
Very small, yes.
And do they have something like this implemented?
Morgantown?
Yes.
Yes.
Have they found this effective in Morgantown?
It's something that's relatively new, but it is something that the voters of Morgantown decided to uphold during the last municipal election.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Chairman of the 54th, Doug Pushkin's recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I was just listening to the speech by my friend from the 55th and brought back some memories because Rochelle Jarrett was my neighbor. I used to live on Randolph Street. She was set on fire next door to the house that her and her husband rented, the apartment that her and her husband rented for many years until her husband died. And she found herself unable to pay rent and was camping out in an abandoned house, on the porch of an abandoned house next door to the house that her and her husband rented for years. Carl McGee, who murdered her, been found guilty of it. He stayed at the shelter the night before that. This law were in effect, she would have been the one who was criminalized. She had nowhere else to go. She was sleeping on the porch next to a house that she used to rent. The murderer stayed at the shelter. This doesn't specify whether we're going after a criminal element or not. What it does is it criminalizes people who are down on their luck. You know, if you want to talk about a criminal element or criminal vagrants, they're already committing crimes. I agree with much of what has been said about this. Enforce the laws on the books. whether it's public intox or possession, drug possession or littering. Enforce the laws on the books. Let's not make new crimes to simply criminalize somebody who has no place to go and is trying to stay warm, like Rochelle, who I've...
From the 98, Doug Funkhauser is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Would the sponsor yield?
Yes.
So do we currently have the law against homelessness on our books?
This one?
This section that we're amending here, as I understand it, this is already applicable to the state capitol complex and the state building. The principal
bill. Sponsored, Gentleman from the 78th, to close debate on the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So there's been a lot of conversation about this, as we've obviously heard. To address some of the things that I heard, I think that the concerns regarding tourism potentially impacting that, I think, are completely unfounded. I think that there's enough language in the bill to prevent any concerns with that. Also, there was never any element of tourism or the CVBs that have reached out to me to address their concerns. If there were concerns, I would have been happy to work with them. But because there was nothing brought to my attention, I'm led to believe that that area of concern is completely unfounded. Number two, the Judiciary Chairman alluded to what this bill, I think, is really trying to get at is we can make a distinction between people that are homeless because something bad has happened to them. They're down on their luck. They genuinely need that last bit of help. They need one person to reach out to them. That's not who this bill is going after. This bill is targeted at criminal vagrancy with people that are engaged in petty crime and actively are a detriment, and they destroy the communities around them. I think that what we try to do sometimes is we try to paint every single person experiencing homelessness with the same brush. They just need a little bit of help. They just need a hand up. This might get me in a little bit of trouble for saying, but that's just not true. It's just not true. I can take you to plenty of places in Morgantown, in Monongalia County, where this is the case. There are people that don't want your help. They don't want a plate of food. If you're not giving them money, they might try and take it from you. We have people that can't use public areas anymore, that they're less interested in participating in the publicly available things that are in my county anymore because their dog might step on a needle. Their child might run into someone that's harassing them outside of the public library. We've had former statewide radio talk show hosts talk about how he could look out from his office at his building downtown Morgantown, watch someone leave their campsite from behind his office, come up onto High Street or Spruce Street in this area, sit in a parking lot, do fentanyl out in broad daylight, and then return to the campsite towards the end of the day. I don't think that any part of that contributes to a healthy society. So this bill gives an additional tool to our great law enforcement officers to try and retain some semblance of community. That is the bill, Mr. Speaker. I urge passage.
Debate on the bill has been closed. The question before the House is, shall the bill pass? Those in favor of passage of the bill will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no. The clerk will prepare the machine. Has every member voted? If so, the clerk will close the machine and ascertain the result. On that question, there were 62 ayes, 32 nays, and 5 members absent. A majority of the members having voted in the affirmative, the chair declares the bill passed. The clerk will please report the title.
Committee substitute for House Bill 5319.
Are there title amendments? If not, the title as read by the clerk will be and remain the title of the bill. The clerk will please communicate the action of the House to the Senate. Next bill on third reading.
Committee substitute for House Bill 5351 relating to modernization of fees generated from emergency communication service users.
Gentleman, the first.
Unanimous consent to postpone action one day, Mr. Speaker.
Are there objections to postponing action one day on the bill? No objections are heard. The bill will be postponed by 1 day. Next bill on third reading.
Committee substitute for House Bill 5401 relating to voting in West Virginia elections while residing overseas.
The question before the House, shall the bill pass? Are there objections to having the bill explained in lieu of having the bill read? If not, Gentleman 98, Doug Funkhauser, to explain the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. House Bill 5401 comes from us by request of the Secretary of State to fulfill our duties to provide general law regarding elections. The bill undertakes 2 substantive changes to the current code. First, it adds a new subdivision providing guidance for voting by absentee ballot for West Virginia citizens residing overseas, clarifying that they may register to vote and may apply for and vote absentee in a state election and federal election held in the election district of this state in which they were formerly domiciled. Additionally, it adds clarity by providing for a federal-only ballot for U.S. citizens who are children of former West Virginia residents and who have never lived in West Virginia, thus eliminating voting by persons who have never been domiciled in West Virginia state elections, as these persons are not citizens of West Virginia under the definition provided in Article 2, Section 3 of the West Virginia Constitution, but protecting their right as American citizens to vote in federal elections. Furthermore, Article 4, Section 1 requires residency to vote in West Virginia elections, which this bill further clarifies. I urge passage.
You've heard the bill explained. The question now before the House is, shall the bill pass? Is there debate on the bill? If not, those in favor of passage of the bill will please vote aye. Those opposed will please vote no. The clerk will prepare the machine. Has every member voted? If so, the clerk will close the machine and ascertain the result on that question. We had 92 ayes, 0 nays, and 7 members absent. A majority of the members having voted in the affirmative, the chair declares the bill passed. The clerk will please report the title.
Committee substitute for House Bill 5401.
Are there title amendments? If not, the title as read by the clerk will be and remain the title of the bill. The clerk will please communicate the action of the House to the Senate. Next bill on third reading.
Committee substitute for House Bill 5458 relating to professionals to be licensed by the West Virginia Board of Medicine.
The question before the House is, shall the bill pass? Are there objections to having this bill explained in lieu of having the bill read? If not, Gentleman the 68th, Douglas Phillips, to explain the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The committee substitute for House Bill 5458 generally relates to professionals to be licensed by the West Virginia Board of Medicine. The bill is a comprehensive rewrite and expansion of laws governing the West Virginia Board of Medicine. It modernizes licensure for physicians, podiatrists, and physician assistants, adds regulation of genetic counselors as a new licensed profession under the board, requires criminal background checks for genetic counseling applicants, repeals outdated or redundant provisions, and creates a standalone Genetic Counselors Practice Act, new Article 3H. Outdated text format code citations were replaced with numeric format throughout. I urge passage.
The question before the House is, shall the bill pass? Is there debate on the bill? If not, those in favor of passage of the bill will please vote aye. Those opposed will please vote no. The clerk will prepare the machine. Has every member voted? If so, the clerk will close the machine and ascertain the result on that question. There are 92 ayes, 0 nays, and 7 members absent. A majority of the members having voted in the affirmative, the chair declares the bill passed. The clerk will please report the title.
Committee substitute for House Bill 5458.
Are there title amendments? If not, the title as read by the clerk will be and remain the title of the bill. The clerk will please communicate the action of the House to the Senate. Next bill on third reading.
House Bill 5463 relating to decreasing Board of Education limits.
For what purpose does Gentleman the 16th seek recognition?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I pushed my green button. It did not record as a yes vote on the last vote.
On passage of House Bill 5458?
Yes.
Gentleman was present and in his seat.
Yes, sir.
The clerk will please note the gentleman from the 16th as having voted in the affirmative on the passage of committee substitute for House Bill 5458.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Clerk has reported House Bill 5463 relating to decreasing Board of Education limits. The question before the House is, shall the bill pass? Are there objections to having the bill explained in lieu of having the bill read? If not, Gentleman from the 58th, Douglas Hall, to explain the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This is by the request of the Board and Risk Insurance Management Team at BRIM. The bill would amend a statute that sets the minimum amount of professional or other liability insurance that BRIM must provide for all county boards of education, teachers, supervisory and administrative staff members, service personnel, county superintendents of schools, and school board members. It also sets the minimum amount that each county board of education must purchase through BRIM. That is a summary of the bill. I'm free to ask questions.
The question before the House is, shall the bill pass? Is there debate on the bill? If not, those in favor of passage of the bill will please vote aye. Those opposed will please vote no. The clerk will prepare the machine. Has every member voted? If so, the clerk will please close the machine and ascertain the result on that question. There were 86 ayes, 10 nays, and 3 members absent. A A majority of the members having voted in the affirmative, the chair declares the bill passed. The clerk will please report the title.
House Bill 5463.
Are there title amendments? If not, the title as read by the clerk will be and remain the title of the bill. The clerk will please communicate the action of the House to the Senate. Next bill on third reading.
Committee substitute for House Bill 5537, repealing obsolete and outdated sections of the Education Code.
The question before the House is, shall the bill pass? Are there objections to having this bill explained in lieu of having the bill read? If not, shall recognize who to explain the bill. Gentleman to 77, Douglas Statler, to explain the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to say this is what we should be doing more of. I'm sorry about the confusion with Delegate Ellington, but the committee substitute repeals obsolete and outdated sections of the Public Education Code. Again, Mr. Speaker, we should be doing more of this, and I urge passage.
You've heard the bill explained. The question before the House is, shall the bill pass? Is there debate on the bill? If not, those in favor of passage of the bill will please vote aye. Those opposed will please vote no. The clerk will prepare the machine. Has every member voted? If so, the clerk will close the machine and ascertain the result on this question. We had 96 ayes, 0 nays, and 3 members absent. A majority of the members having voted in the affirmative, the chair declares the bill passed. The clerk will please report the title.
Committee substitute for House Bill 5537.
Are there title amendments? If not, the title as read by the clerk will be and remain the title of the bill. The clerk will please communicate the action of the House to the Senate. Next bill on third reading.
Committee substitute for House Bill 5557, require advertising materials be submitted with the initial public offering statement.
The question before the House is, shall the bill pass? Are there objections to having this bill explained in lieu of having the bill read? If not, Gentleman 55th, Douglas Akers, to explain the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. House Bill 5557 simply creates a more efficient process by which advertising materials for timeshares may be provided. This is an amendment to existing code. I urge passage.
The question before the House is, shall the bill pass? Is there debate on the bill? If not, those in favor of passage of the bill will please vote aye. Those opposed will please vote no. The clerk will prepare the machine. Has every member voted? If so, the clerk will close the machine and ascertain the result on this question. We had 96 ayes, 0 nays, and 3 members absent. A majority of the members having voted in the affirmative, the chair declares the bill passed. The clerk will please report the title.
Committee substitute for House Bill 5557.
Are there title amendments? If not, the title as read by the clerk will be and remain the title of the bill. The clerk will please communicate the action of the House to the Senate. Next bill on third reading.
Committee substitute for House Bill 5660, updates to obtaining a license to carry deadly weapons statute.
The question before the House is, shall the bill pass? Are there objections to having the bill explained in lieu of having the bill read? If not, Gentleman the 41st, Delegate Maynard, to explain the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This bill clarifies that the concealed handgun license shall be valid for 5 years from the date of issuance instead of the date of birth of the applicant. That is the bill, Mr. Speaker, and I urge passage.
You've heard the bill explained. The question now is, shall the bill pass? Is there debate on the bill? If not, those in favor of passage of the bill will please vote aye. Those opposed will please vote no. The clerk will prepare the machine. Has every member voted? If so, the clerk will close the machine and ascertain the result on that question. There were 95 ayes, 1 nay, and 3 members absent. A majority of the members having voted in the affirmative, the chair declares the bill passed. The clerk will please report the title.
Committee substitute for House Bill 5660.
Are there title amendments? If not, the title as read by the clerk will be and remain the title of the bill. The clerk will please communicate for what purpose, gentlemen, the first seek recognition.
Move to make the bill effective from passage.
The question is on the gentleman's motion that committee substitute for House Bill 5660 be made effective from passage. Those in favor of the motion will please vote aye. Those opposed will please vote no. The clerk will prepare the machine. Has every member voted? Lady from the 70th, Douglas Petito, your vote is not registered. Has every member voted? If so, the clerk will close the machine and ascertain the result. On that question, there were 95 ayes, 1 nay, and 3 members absent. 2/3 of the members having voted in the affirmative, the chair declares the bill effective from passage. The clerk will please communicate the action of the House to the Senate. Next bill on third reading.
House Bill 5683, relating to graduation requirements for public schools.
The question before the House is, shall the bill pass? Are there objections to having this bill explained in lieu of having the bill read? If not, Gentleman the 43rd, Delegate Tony, to explain the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The purpose of the bill is to provide that the State Board of Education shall promulgate rules providing for minimum requirements for graduation for the public school in the state. which may include course credits, competency demonstrations, and/or assessments as the board determines necessary to ensure the graduates are prepared for post-secondary education or gainful employment. That is the purpose of the bill, Mr. Speaker, and I urge passage.
The question now before the House is, shall the bill pass? Is there debate on the bill? Gentleman from the 57th, Leggett Lewis is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Would the sponsor you?
Yes.
Now, you said assessments to graduate. Did I hear you correctly?
Correct.
So there could be like for example, like a standardized test in order to graduate, so you can like get all your credits and pass all your classes, but they can implement a standardized test in order for you to graduate?
Not for graduation, for an individual course.
Okay. So not like an accumulative test for graduation, but like a test for that individual course?
Individual course.
What would that be like? Is that like just like your general algebra course and you would just have a test at the end, or what are we talking?
They could, or it could be, when the superintendents brought it to us, it was a way to get the state board to put in there about competency, make sure like if they had someone to come in that could demonstrate the different welds for a welding class, that they could use that for course credit rather than having them go through the course. They could give them credit for that. Currently, they're not able to do that.
Okay. Okay. So what you're saying is like a sort of an alternative as opposed to like...
To that individual course rather than taking the individual course itself.
Okay, got it. Okay, I just want to make sure I understood. Thank you.
Yeah.
Is there other debate on the bill? If not, the question before the House is, shall the bill pass? Those in favor of passage of the bill will please vote aye. Those opposed will please vote no. The clerk will prepare the machine. Has every member voted? If so, the clerk will close the machine and ascertain the result on that question. There were 94 ayes, 2 nays, and 3 members absent. A majority of the members having voted in the affirmative, the chair declares the bill passed. The clerk will please report the title.
House Bill 5683.
Are there title amendments? If not, the title as read by the clerk will be and remain the title of the bill. The clerk will please communicate the action of the House to the Senate. Do we have other bills on third reading? If not, bills on second reading.
House Joint Resolution 42, Homestead Exemption.
Are there amendments? If not, the bill will be advanced. The resolution will be advanced.
Committee substitute for House Bill 4001, creating Team West Virginia Corporation.
Are there amendments? If not, the bill will be advanced.
Committee substitute for House Bill 4010, providing a statutory program for loaning financial assistance to local airports for airplane hangar construction in the state.
Are there amendments? If not, the bill will be advanced.
Committee substitute for House Bill 4025, exempting certain employees from the classified civil service system.
Are there amendments? If not, the bill will be advanced.
Committee substitute for House Bill 4176 to allow youth and handicapped hunters to harvest a buck, deer, or doe during youth handicap special hunts.
Are there amendments? If not, the bill will be advanced.
Committee substitute for House Bill 4191 relating to providing child care generally.
Are there amendments? If not, the bill will be advanced.
Committee substitute for House Bill 4418 creating the Tax Efficiency Act of 2026.
Are there amendments? If not, the bill will be advanced.
Committee substitute for House Bill 4538 regarding fines in DOH work zones.
Are there amendments?
Delegates Flanagan and Akers moved to amend the bill. This is HFA Flanagan and Akers 3-2, number 1.
Are there objections to allowing the sponsors to explain the amendment in lieu of having the amendment read? If not, Gentleman before, Douglas Flanagan to explain the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The committee substitute for House Bill 4538 increases penalties for traffic violations occurring within construction zones. The amendment would double the penalties for violating the Electronically Distracted Driving Act within a construction zone. The amendment I added would be that if you're messing up, playing on your phone while you're going through here, it should be doubled up just as if you're speeding. I think that we've all seen people driving while they're texting and distracted. And I feel like speeding is not just the only thing causing people to get harmed in these construction zones. That is the amendment, and I urge passage.
The question now is on the adoption of the amendment just explained by the sponsor. Is there debate on the amendment? If not, those in favor of adoption of the amendment will please say aye. Aye. Those opposed will please say no. The ayes have it. The chair declares that amendment adopted. Are there other amendments to the bill? If not, the bill will be advanced to third reading. Next bill on second reading.
Committee substitute for House Bill 4588 relating to participating in the federal tax credit scholarship program.
Are there amendments? If not, the bill will be advanced.
House Bill 4772 to ensure the integrity of West Virginia's Medicaid program by requiring regular verification of enrollee status and prompt removal of deceased individuals from active Medicaid rolls.
Are there amendments? If not, the bill will be advanced.
Committee substitute for House Bill 4965 related to patient-centered treatment flexibility within the Public Employees Insurance Agency.
Are there amendments? If not, the bill will be advanced.
Committee substitute for House Bill 4977 relating to authorizing municipalities to adopt an ordinance to recover demolition costs as a special tax assessment.
Are there amendments? If not, the bill will be advanced.
Committee substitute for House Bill 4986 relating to providing additional ground for abandonment findings in adoption proceedings.
Are there amendments? If not, the bill will be advanced.
Committee substitute for House Bill 4995 require the use of video cameras in certain special education classrooms.
Are there amendments? If not, the bill will be advanced.
Committee substitute for House Bill 5004 relating generally to pans and pandas.
Are there amendments? If not, the bill will be advanced.
Committee substitute for House Bill 5059 relating to authorizing cultural heritage institutions to claim title to certain property in possession of the cultural heritage institution after providing certain notices.
Are there amendments? If not, the bill will be advanced.
Committee substitute for House Bill 5060 relating to decentralized unincorporated nonprofit associations.
Are there amendments? If not, the bill will be advanced.
Committee substitute for House Bill 5074 relating to changing the allocation of proceeds in the Medical Cannabis Program Fund.
Are there amendments? Gentleman, the first.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Unanimous consent to advance to third with general right to amend.
Are there objections to advancing the bill to third reading with the generalized right to amend? Objection is heard. Gentleman, the first moves that the bill be advanced to third reading with the general right to amend. This is a rule suspension bill, or this is a rule suspension vote, rather. So the question is, shall the rule be suspended such that committee substitute for House Bill 5074 be advanced to third reading with the generalized right to amend? Those in favor of adoption of the motion will please vote aye. Those opposed will please vote no. Clerk, prepare the machine. Has every member voted? If so, the clerk will please close the machine and ascertain the result on that question. There are 89 ayes, 2 nays, and 8 members absent. 2/3 of the members having voted in the affirmative, the chair declares the motion adopted. The bill will be so advanced. Next bill on second reading.
House Bill 5087 relating to the Interstate Cosmetology Licensure Compact.
Are there amendments? If not, the bill will be advanced.
Committee substitute for House Bill 5088 relating to Natural Resource Police Officer retirement.
Are there amendments? If not, the bill will be advanced.
House Bill 5091 relating to duties of licensees under the West Virginia Real Estate License Act.
Are there amendments? If not, the bill will be advanced.
Committee substitute for House Bill 5260 relating generally to medical cannabis.
Are there amendments? If not, the bill will be advanced.
House Bill 5323 relating to indexing of license and stamp fees.
Are there amendments? If not, the bill will be advanced.
House Bill 5325 creating an emeritus license status for retired physicians, podiatric physicians, and physician's assistants who meet eligibility criteria.
Are there amendments? If not, the bill will be advanced.
Committee substitute for House Bill 5327 West Virginia ALS Care Services.
Are there amendments? If not, the bill will be advanced.
Committee substitute for House Bill 5353 to bring virtual currency kiosks within the purview of money transmission licensure and create disclosure requirements and daily transaction limitations for new and existing customers.
Are there amendments? If not, the bill will be advanced.
Committee substitute for House Bill 5364 reforming boards and commissions.
Are there amendments? If not, the bill will be advanced.
House Bill 5366 relating to rules governing the practice of law.
Are there amendments?
Delegate Akers moves to amend the bill. This is HFA Akers 3-2 number 1.
The question is on adoption of the amendment just read by the clerk. Are there objections to having the amendment explained in lieu of having it read? If not, Gentleman the 55th, Delegate Akers, to explain the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This bill, this amendment fits into deals with what's called the Judges and Lawyers Assistance Program, which is, I don't know, maybe around 15 or so years old at this point. It deals with the voluntary submission by members of the judiciary or lawyers to submit to substance abuse treatment so that they won't be disciplined simply for revealing that they may have a substance use disorder. And this amendment just helps clarify which records will be confidential when those individuals submit to the jurisdiction of what's called the JLAP, Judges and Lawyers Assistance Program. That's a brief description of the amendment, Mr. Speaker. Urge passage.
The question now is on adoption of the amendment just explained by the sponsor. Is there debate on the amendment? If not, those in favor of adoption of the amendment will please say aye. Those opposed will please say no. The ayes have it. The chair declares that amendment adopted. Are there other amendments to the bill? If not, the bill will be advanced to third reading. Next bill on second reading.
Committee substitute for House Bill 5398 relating to dates and deposits for oil and gas well plugging.
Are there amendments? If not, the bill will be advanced.
Committee substitute for House Bill 5438 to modify the foundation allowance to improve instructional programs.
Are there amendments? If not, the bill will be advanced.
Committee substitute for House Bill 5441, reforming state personnel system.
Gentleman the first.
Unanimous consent to advance to third with amendments pending.
Gentleman the first, ask unanimous consent to advance committee substitute for House Bill 5441 to third reading with the amendment pending. Are there objections? No objections are heard. The bill will be so advanced. Next bill on second reading.
Committee substitute for House Bill 5453 to modify the school aid funding formula.
Gentleman the first.
Unanimous consent to advance to third with general right to amend.
Gentleman the first, ask unanimous consent to advance the bill to third reading with the general right to amend. Are there objections? No objections are heard, and the bill will be so advanced. Next bill on second reading.
House Bill 5457 to allow partial credits for times of disability service in the CPRB for troopers.
Are there amendments?
Delegate Chris moves to amend the bill. This is HFA Chris 3-2, number 1.
The question is on adoption of the amendment just reported by the clerk. Are there objections to having the amendment explained in lieu of having the amendment read? If not, gentleman the 12th to explain the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. There was a problem with the committee report from this bill. The committee substitute that should have been reported was not. This amendment simply puts this committee substitute that was adopted by the House Finance Committee into the bill so that the product of the committee is preserved. The committee substitute made technical corrections to the bill. The original bill was made the proposed changes to the wrong section and applied the changes to the closed trooper retirement system, or Trooper A. The committee substitute makes the proposed changes to the correct section of code, applying the changes to Trooper B. I urge adoption.
The question now is on adoption of the amendment as just explained by the sponsor. Is there debate on the amendment? If not, those in favor of adoption of the amendment will please say aye. Those opposed will please say no. The ayes have it. The chair declares that amendment adopted. Are there other amendments to the bill? If not, the bill will be advanced to third reading. Next bill on second reading.
Committee substitute for House Bill 5462 relating to mine subsidence.
Are there amendments? If not, the bill will be advanced.
Committee substitute for House Bill 5464, West Virginia First Live Raising Jobs Act of 2026.
Are there amendments? If not, the bill will be advanced.
Committee substitute for House Bill 5466 relating to abuse prevention program.
Are there amendments?
Delegate Pushkin moves to amend the bill. This is HFA Pushkin 3-3.
The question is on adoption of the amendment just reported by the clerk. Are there objections to allowing the sponsor to explain the amendment in lieu of having the amendment read? No objections are heard. Chair recognizes the sponsor, gentleman from the 54th, to explain the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And first, I'll wish everybody a happy Purim for those who celebrate. What this bill does, it renames the pretrial diversion program for those accused of domestic violence, and I'd say it's a very good bill. What the amendment attempts to do is put an even better bill into the bill, and that would be to recreate, because we had it before, domestic violence court pilot program here in Kanawha County. We had that for many years. It was very effective, and what it does is you would have judges, magistrates, assistant prosecutors who are better versed in this specific type of crime. And I believe having this type of court in place for many years, it did prevent a lot of bad things from happening. I know that we've had a couple of bills this year, and I appreciate that in regards to domestic violence. And we heard before about a horrible tragedy that happened over the holidays here in Kanawha County. I believe having a court like this in place could possibly prevent those types of horrendous acts from happening when you have those who set the bond, the magistrates, a little bit better versed in this type of crime. Those who are handing down the sentences, our circuit court judges, are better versed in these types of crimes, and our prosecutors who are more sensitive to these types of very unique crimes that happen within our homes. And I'll remind people the most common circumstances involving violent acts and murders in this state, as any other state, is domestic violence. That's what causes most of the horrendous acts we hear about. So I would ask for adoption of the amendment to create a domestic violence court pilot program here in Kanawha County.
The question is on adoption of the amendment as just explained by the sponsor. Is there debate on the amendment? Gentleman from the 53rd, Doggett Levitt, is recognized on the amendment.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I introduced the underlying bill that my colleague from the 54th is seeking to amend, and as he knows, I have to rise in opposition to his amendment. The underlying bill was considered by our Health Committee, and while my colleague's bill was assigned to the Judiciary Committee, which is the proper place for it to have been vetted, and his amendment would result in the requirement of a fiscal note, which hasn't been produced. As a technical matter also, this section of code currently authorizes 5 different counties in the state to try a domestic violence court pilot should they choose. Adopting this amendment would eliminate that option for 4 counties, and so therefore this amendment is also opposed by the West Virginia Coalition Against Domestic Violence, which requested the underlying bill. That said, as my colleague from the 54th District knows, I am deeply sympathetic to the intent behind his bill. Over 50% of the Kanawha County Magistrate Court's dockets are domestic violence cases. We have a magistrate system in our state to avoid circuit courts being overloaded with misdemeanor cases and minor civil disputes. We don't require magistrates to be attorneys or to have any court or law enforcement related background, and that works wonderfully most of the time. We have some wonderful folks here in this room who have been magistrates. But domestic violence cases are not the same as considering, something like the theft of a candy bar or even some of the more complex cases that magistrates see. These are cases of violence where lives could be at stake. They should receive the highest priority from magistrates and prosecutors. Instead, here in Kanawha County, these cases have too often not been made priorities. Some of the magistrates in our county are fantastic. Others have really struggled with these types of cases. And even when a victim is lucky enough to have their case end up on the docket of a magistrate with experience in these issues, bond modifications coming every 5 days as they can might result in a case going on a different magistrate's docket. Overloaded magistrate dockets mean standard continuations can bump a case back months at a time just to once again get on the magistrate's docket. And if continuances result in a case not being adjudicated within a year, the charges get dismissed altogether. Meanwhile, magistrate court dockets seem to have been an afterthought for our prosecutor's office lately. New prosecutors have been put in chaotic magistrate court with little or no training and little backup when they're not available for specific hearings. So as a result, these cases are falling between the cracks far too often here in Kanawha County. This is not acceptable. I do believe under the pilot already allowed for 5 counties, having at least one magistrate and prosecutor dedicated to these cases would help them develop specialized expertise, just as my colleague referenced, and would allow for more speedy consideration of these cases that would protect victims and could eventually help save lives. And so therefore, I would invite my colleague from the 54th District to join me in a letter to the Kanawha County Prosecutor's Office and magistrates requesting that they use the authorization they already have in code and dedicate the resources to adopt a domestic violence pilot. In the meantime, I respectfully urge rejection of the amendment at hand. Thank you.
Question again is on adoption of the amendment as reported by the clerk and explained by the sponsor. Is there debate on the amendment? Chair recognizes the sponsor, Chairman of the 54th.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I appreciate the sponsor of the bill, who was also a co-sponsor of the bill that we're attempting to amend into this. I don't believe the passage or the adoption of this amendment would preclude any other county from having a type of domestic violence court like this. And while I think the cost of this is basically what you're talking about are extra courses for assistant prosecutors, magistrates, and maybe one judge for that circuit. And I think that's minimal compared to the lives that would potentially be saved by having those who specialize in this type of crime hearing these cases. So, like I said, I think this bill is pretty good. It renames the program. It renames the diversion program. But the bill that I'm trying to put into it is a great bill. And should it have been on the agenda in Judiciary? Yes. I have absolutely no control of that. I can only introduce the bill and try to get it on an agenda. The bill would save lives. There's absolutely nothing partisan or political about this amendment. It's simply good policy that would save lives. I urge adoption.
Question is on adoption of the amendment as reported by the clerk and explained by the sponsor. Those in favor of adoption of the amendment will please say aye. Those opposed will please say no. No. Noes appear to have it. Okay, noes have it. Chair declares the amendment lost. Are there other amendments to the bill? If not, the bill will be advanced to third reading. Next bill on second reading.
Committee substitute for House Bill 5480 relating to establishing the West Virginia Youth Summer Employment and Career Readiness Program.
Are there amendments?
Delegates Butler, Drennan, and Pinson move to amend the committee substitute. This is HFA Butler, Drennan, and Pinson 3-3, number 1.
The question is on adoption of the amendment just reported by the clerk. Are there objections to having the amendment explained in lieu of having the amendment read? If not, Gentleman the 18th, Delegate Butler, to explain the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This actually is a pretty good bill, I think, and especially be better if we can get this amendment in there. And I appreciate the gentleman from the 25th for offering the bill and for talking with me about this amendment this morning. So what I'm trying to do with this amendment is to make sure that it's a summer youth employment program. And what we're trying to do, or what I'm trying to do with this amendment, is make sure that this applies equally to everyone, all the youth who want to have an opportunity for a job. So there are a few places in the bill that gives preferential treatment, in a sense, to specific youth. So what I did was strike and insert here, which made it a neat way of doing it. So anyway, so some of the language that was problematic to me is that the department shall provide equal access to all eligible youth, but, and I want to get rid of that big but, because what it's saying after that is it will provide additional outreach, training support, and placement strategies to expand access to employment opportunities for priority youth program population. So we're saying we're going to treat everyone equally in the bill, and then it says we're going to give priority to these other people. So what I'm trying to say here is what the amendment does. It just says we're going to give everyone equal access to these job opportunities. So I urge passage of the amendment. Thank you.
Question now is on adoption of the amendment just explained by the sponsor. Is there debate on the amendment? Gentleman from the 25th, Delegate Hornbuckle, is recognized on the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Colleagues, and I do appreciate the gentleman from Mason County. We talked about this for a good bit, and yesterday as well. And I believe there is a good faith effort in how he views the bill. But I would respectfully reject the amendment on the grounds that it, as it reads, it does not give any priority. It does not give any priority. But I will first lay out to you who those youth are. They are members of TANF. They are children in foster care, and they're also justice-involved children. And so with the portion of the bill that he just spoke about, which is the participation, in administering the program, the department shall provide equal access to eligible youth. So it will always provide equal access. But, as he said, it will provide additional outreach and also placement strategies to expand. And so, and I see that the gentleman from the 30th is currently not here, but I know he used to work with justice-involved children at Presley Ridge, and I don't know if anyone else here has. That part of the bill is simply that they might not physically be in the school at the same time that this program is talked about or offered. So we want to make sure that they have the opportunity to at least hear about the opportunity. That is very, very simple. Again, the bill already provides for equal access. We just want to make sure if there's some kid who might not even have the resources to get to a fair or something like that to hear about the program, that the department is just simply going to make sure that they know about it. Not preference, not priority, just ensuring that they have access. And so that's why I would respectfully reject the amendment.
Question again is on adoption of the amendment. Is there debate on the amendment? If not, Chair recognize the sponsor, Gentleman the 18th.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Just real quickly in closing, again, I agree with the intent of the bill. I just want to make sure that I think there's an assumption that youth who maybe fall within one of the priority youth categories as in the bill, someone who's on TANF or SNAP or somebody who's in foster care or any of these other programs, there's a suggestion here that those students don't have access in a way that is greater than maybe some of our working families, low-income families. They have kids too, and oftentimes the working poor are working daylight to dark, and maybe they don't have the time to get all this information to their kids either. So all we're saying here with this amendment is, let's make that extra outreach effort to all the foster kids and all the low-income students, and also the ones who are maybe the students, the children of the working poor as well as everyone else. If we're going to be equal, let's be equal. So I would appreciate your vote for this amendment. Thank you.
Debate on the amendment has been closed. The question is, shall the amendment be adopted? Those in favor of adoption of the amendment will please say aye. Aye. Those opposed will please say no. No. Well, the ayes appear to have it. Okay, the ayes have it. Chair declares the amendment adopted. Are there other amendments to the bill? If not, the bill will be advanced to third reading. Next bill on second reading.
Committee substitute for House Bill 5484, creating the crime of conspiracy to deny medical treatment to victim of sexual offense.
Are there amendments? If not, the bill will be advanced.
House Bill 5510, eliminate the requirement for private wedding venues to own at least 2 acres in rural location.
Are there amendments? If not, the bill will be advanced.
House Bill 5511, to allow money to be paid to County Board of Education employees' estates for accrued and unused leave if they pass away before retirement.
Are there amendments? If not, the bill will be advanced.
Committee substitute for House Bill 5515, relating to modernizing and updating workers' compensation statutes.
Are there amendments? If not, the bill will be advanced.
Committee substitute for House Bill 5521, adjusters, public adjusters.
The bill will be advanced.
Committee substitute for House Bill 5527, relating to wellness reimbursement programs.
Are there amendments? If not, the bill will be advanced.
Committee substitute for House Bill 5528, relating to protection of personal residential information of certain public officials.
Are there amendments?
Delegates Funkhauser and Hornby moved to amend the committee substitute. This is HFA Funkhauser and Hornby 3-3, number 1, revised -2.
The question is on adoption of the amendment just reported by the clerk. Are there objections to allowing the sponsor to explain the amendment in lieu of having the amendment read? If not, Gentleman 98, Douglas Funkhauser, to explain the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This amendment amends the definition of covered individuals to add public defenders and members of the legislature. It further amends the exclusions in subsection E to provide the Secretary of State and the county clerks the authority to continue what they have to do to determine residency and verify for candidates and voter registration. Welcome questions. Urge adoption.
The question now is on adoption of the amendment, again, as just explained by the sponsor. Is there debate on the amendment? If not, those in favor of adoption of the amendment will please say aye. Those opposed will please say no. The ayes have it. Chair declares the amendment adopted. Are there other amendments to the bill? If not, the bill will be advanced to third reading. Next bill on second reading.
Committee substitute for House Bill 5563, to create the West Virginia Timely Transplant Referral and Coordination Act.
Are there amendments?
Delegates Burkhammer and Burrell moved to amend the bill on page 1, line 7, by striking 30-day and inserting 3-day. This is HFA Burkhammer 3-3, number 1.
The question now is on adoption of the amendment as just read by the clerk. Is there debate on the amendment? Gentleman 64, Douglas Burkhammer.
Yeah, this is just simply a technical cleanup, lining the top portion of the bill up to the reporting requirements in the bottom. I urge adoption.
Is there debate on the amendment? If not, those in favor of adoption of the amendment will please say aye. Those opposed will please say no. The ayes have it. The chair declares that amendment adopted. Are there other amendments to the bill? If not, the bill will be advanced to third reading. Next bill on second reading.
House Bill 5564, relating to deputy sheriff's vacation time.
Are there amendments? If not, the bill will be advanced.
Committee substitute for House Bill 5587, to authorize cameras in school buses to send red light violators footage directly to the applicable law enforcement agency for ticketing and enforcement.
Are there amendments? If not, the bill will be advanced.
Committee substitute for House Bill 5622, amendments to city charters.
Are there amendments? If not, the bill will be advanced.
Committee substitute for House Bill 5625, relating to the licensure of radon mitigators, testers, contractors, and laboratories.
Gentleman the first.
Unanimous consent to postpone action 1 day.
Gentleman the first, ask unanimous consent to postpone action 1 day on the bill. Are there objections? No objections are heard. Action on the bill will be postponed by 1 day. Next bill on second reading.
Committee substitute for House Bill 5629 relating generally to the West Virginia Uniform Unclaimed Property Act.
Are there amendments? If not, the bill will be advanced.
House Bill 5649 relating to confidentiality of certain records pertaining to adults and facility residents.
Are there amendments? If not, the bill will be advanced.
Committee substitute for House Bill 5652 relating to the hotel occupancy tax.
Are there amendments? If not, the bill will be advanced.
House Bill 5684 relating to authorizing the Supreme Court of Appeals to create child protection commissioners.
Are there amendments? If not, the bill will be advanced.
House Bill 5685 relating to authorizing bonds for improvements to the West Virginia Science and Culture Center.
Are there amendments? If not, the bill will be advanced.
House Bill 5686 relating to the timing of payments of annually required deposit into an eligible recipient's Hope Scholarship account.
Are there amendments?
Delegate Hornbuckle moves to amend the bill. This is HFA Hornbuckle 3-3 number 1.
The question is on the amendment just reported by the clerk. Are there objections to allowing the sponsor to explain the amendment? There are no objections heard. Gentleman from the 25th to explain the amendment.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Colleagues, what my amendment would do is it would allow for the quarterly payments to be adjusted based on the family income of each recipient to ensure sufficient funding that is available for all county public schools. The board shall award Hope Scholarship based on income-based eligibility. It's a tier system from $75,000 to $150,000. Again, this is tailored to the quarterly payments to be efficient with our state dollars. I urge passage of the amendment and reserve the right to close.
Question is on adoption of the amendment just explained by the sponsor. Is there debate on the amendment? Gentleman from the 12th, Douglas Chris, recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I asked if this amendment is germane to the bill.
The chair did review the underlying bill and the two pending amendments. It is an extraordinarily narrow bill that relates only to disbursement of the funds and timing. Nevertheless, the chair did review this amendment. It does appear to be narrowly tailored enough to only address the payment of the funds. So the chair will rule that this particular amendment is germane to the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I urge rejection of the amendment.
Is there further debate on the amendment? If not, gentleman, the 25th to close debate on the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Colleagues, we spend a lot of money on unbiased consultation to try to help us be better stewards of our state dollars. And with that, I know a lot of you all were privy to the RAND report. And I just want to simply read an excerpt from that. We therefore recommend against the expansion and recommend considering adding income eligibility criteria to focus resources towards families less able to afford private schooling. This does not massively constrict this scholarship program, so much so that we have learned that it would only potentially maybe curb it by about $20 million. But that is still a huge cost savings in what we're dealing with today, and also the exodus of money from our public school system. Again, I think this is the right thing to do from a fiscal standpoint, and I would urge all of us to vote for this, to both retain the HOPE program, but also be good stewards of our fiscal dollars. Thank you.
Debate on the amendment has been closed. The question is, shall the amendment be adopted? Those in favor of adoption of the roll call is requested. Is the request sustained? Request is sustained. The question is, shall the amendment be adopted? Those in favor of adoption of the amendment will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no. The clerk will prepare the machine. Has every member voted? If so, the clerk will close the machine and ascertain the result on that question. There are 14 ayes, 74 nays, and 11 members absent. Less than a majority in the affirmative. The chair declares the amendment rejected. Clerk will please report the next of the two amendments.
Delegate Hornbuckle moves to amend the bill. This is HFA Hornbuckle 3-3 number 2.
Gentleman, the 25th to explain the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. What this amendment does, it is just simply returns it to the original finance originating piece of legislation that we had before us, which I think was good work by the committee and the leadership and the staff, and I would urge adoption.
Question is on adoption of the amendment just explained by the sponsor. Gentleman, the 12th.
Again, Mr. Speaker, I ask for germaneness to the bill.
On this one, the chair will sustain the gentleman's point of order and rule that this amendment does exceed the scope of the bill.
Thank you.
Are there other amendments to the bill? If not, the bill will be advanced to third reading. Next bill on second reading.
House Bill 5687 relating to reducing the tax rate imposed on the gross value of metallurgical coal produced in the state.
Are there amendments? If not, the bill will be advanced. Are there other bills on second reading? If not, bills on first reading. If not, are there objections to returning to receipt of committee reports at this time? No objections are heard. Does the clerk have standing committee reports?
Your Committee on Finance has had under consideration Committee Substitute for House Bill 5412, Future Ready Education Act, and reports of Committee Substitute for the Committee Substitute back therefore without recommendation.
Report will be received. Bill will be placed upon the calendar. Leaves of absence. Gentleman the first.
For our colleagues, delegates Jordan and Brian Smith.
Are there objections to leaves of absence being granted? No objections are heard. Those leaves of absence will be granted. Introductions. Miscellaneous business. Gentleman the first.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. I just want to announce that my younger brother Brendan and his wife Heather just had their fourth child about an hour ago, Daniel George McGeehan, and this is my mother's 10th grandchild, but the first male and first boy she has. So, mom and baby are doing well.
Miscellaneous business. Gentleman the first.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move, subject to announcements, the House adjourn until tomorrow at 9:30 a.m.
Are there announcements? Gentleman the first.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Your Rules Committee will meet at 9:15 a.m. tomorrow morning in the Speaker's conference room.
Gentleman the 72nd.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Your Committee on Finance will meet tomorrow, Wednesday, March 4th at 9 a.m. in the House Finance Committee room. The agenda will be posted. Also, for all members, today at 2:30, anyone who would like to see the up close and firsthand situation at the West Virginia Culture Center, there will be a tour at 2:30 p.m. At the Culture Center. So feel free to welcome. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Gentleman the 39th, Douglas Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Your Standing Committee on Government Organization will meet today at 2:45 p.m. in the Government Organization Committee room. The agenda is posted. Republicans will caucus at 2:30 in the chair's office. And additionally, your Standing Committee on Government Organization will meet tomorrow at 1 p.m. in the Government Organization Committee room. The agenda will be posted. Republicans will caucus at 12:45 in the chair's office. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Gentleman the 43rd, Delegate Tony.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Your Standing Committee on Education will meet today at 2:30 in the Education Committee room. The agenda is posted. Additionally, your Standing Committee on Education will meet again tomorrow, Wednesday, March the 4th at 1 p.m. in the Education Committee room. The agenda will be posted.
Gentleman the 2nd, Douglas Teselo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Your Committee on Energy and Public Works will meet today, March 3rd at 3:30 p.m. in the House Judiciary Committee room. Republicans will caucus before the meeting at 3 p.m. in the House Judiciary Committee room. The agenda is posted. Thank you.
Are there further announcements? If not, the question is on the motion that the House adjourn until 9:30 a.m. tomorrow morning. Those in favor of the motion will please say aye. Those opposed will please say no. The ayes have it. The motion is adopted. The House is adjourned until 9:30 a.m. tomorrow.